beautiful Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Today is another value-adding Sunday. My name is Coach Darwin Rivers and you are watching the HR Cafe, Usapang Trabaho, Buhay Iba Pa. And I'll be joined by our HR Cafe mentors. We have mentors Alan Cañete, mentors Jamie Iris, and of course, mentors Jakeson Quichon. Today is February 25. Although it's not a holiday, this is the day of the EDSA People Power Revolution, the 38th anniversary of the EDSA People Power Revolution. And we will be having our discussion at the latter part of the program, our free training. We have Dr. Mark Relova. Dr. Mark Relova will be discussing about driving team psychological safety in the workplace. So this is really a very exciting topic for all of us. So please stay tuned for another episode of the HR Cafe, Usapang Trabaho, Buhay Iba Pa. Here at the HR Cafe program, we provide timely news and updates. We also impart knowledge and experience that are value-adding and beneficial to you, our audience. We also discuss problems, issues, and challenges, and provide answers and resolutions with our guest resource. If there are new technologies, tools, and processes, makaasa po kayo. Any best practices will be discussed here at the HR Cafe. If you also have any job opportunities for our audience, please post it at the comment section and we'll be happy to announce it because we're also a virtual job board. At the end of the day, here at the HR Cafe, we would like to bridge understanding between employees and employers and also provide inspiration and motivation to the Filipino working class. The HR Cafe program starts with our wow quote for the week. And for this wow quote for the week, the wow quote for the week is coming from, coming from David Novak. But before the wow quote for the week, again, I've been quite, matagal-tagal din ako nakapag-HR Cafe. So let me just introduce formally our HR Cafe mentors. We have Mentor Alan Cañete. Mentor Alan is the head of she's a learning and development leader, a board director of the Philippines HR Group, and the head of
Creative Moves, Business Outsourcing. Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone watching us from the different parts of our planet. Okay, so we are being watched by the HR change makers. I'm one of the hosts here in HR Cafe. I'm Alan Cañete, and we are actually a global HR community, no? And I'm so glad that yung last episode natin, Sir Darwin, umabot na ng ilang viewers yun sa replay? Something like 20,000.
Well, our live is 300 plus. Our replay is more than almost 50,000 already.
Wow. Okay, so most likely yung mga iba pa natin mga episodes in the past are also gaining a lot of views, no? And kasi nga, we have a global community here. So whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting your HR adventure, you're in the right place. So let's connect, learn and grow as we embark on this shared journey. So this afternoon, we have a very, very, very interesting topic to be delivered to you by a psychologist himself, no? Si Dr. Mark. Dr. Mark Relova, and they will be talking about a very interesting topic. Hindi ko lang sabihin para hindi ma-preempt. Right, so back to you, Sir Darwin.
Thank you, Mentor Alan. And of course, we also have Mentor Jamie Iris. Mentor Jamie Iris is a managing director of Empower to Excel Training Consulting Services. Mentor Jamie, are you still here in the Philippines or kumusta ka na?
Yes, Coach Darwin, I'm still here in the Philippines and looking forward na excited talaga ako for this afternoon. At syempre kahit mapunta sa ibang bansa, looking forward makasama pa rin kayo. And hello sa lahat ng ating mga viewers for this afternoon. Katulad ng sabi ni Mentor, Alan, so saan man po kayong dako ng mundo, aba naririto kami para magserbisyo sa inyo. And I'm simply so glad to be one of the HR Cafe servers to definitely share my insights, my thoughts, at syempre na-excited din ako pakinggan kung ano pa yung share ng ating other HR Cafe servers plus of course our guest speaker. Pero syempre mga mentors at Coach Darwin, batiin po muna natin ang ilan sa mga viewers po natin. So andito po sa ating mga viewers, ayan. So meron po tayong mga viewers from Gen 3. Ayan, meron din po tayong viewers from, ayan sabi niya po, isang magandang hapon. Ayan sa ating lahat. And then we also have Jehan Ruth Viendo. Ayan, he's actually saying good afternoon sa atin. And later po, we'll also do some other greetings po mula po sa inyo. And of
Okay,
course, we have...
Thank you, Mentor Jamie. And of course, na-miss namin to, Mentor Jake Pichon. He's a Senior
Hi.
HR Stakeholder Engagement Director from Power for All and IQ Bets. Mentor Jake, kumusta na?
Hi, good afternoon everyone as well. So Coach Darwin, yes, I miss everyone and also with the HR Cafe survey, lalong-lalo na ang ating mga audience. But it's a very sunny afternoon. Kanina umulan dito sa Manila. So I'm here in Manila and I'd love to hear also the insights. Also, the topic is very personal to me, especially I graduated a clinical psychology and I took Masters of Guidance and Counseling. And sabi nga natin, di ba, tayo ay mental health advocates. So that's why I know that there will be a lot of question and answers and also new insights from our psychologist at ating speaker. And I'd love to hear also yung mga insights ng ating mga audiences from all over the world na tayo. We're global. So yes, good afternoon.
Thank you, Mentor Jake. And of course, we also have HR Cafe servers who unfortunately won't be able to join us. We have Mentor Oliver Riquelman, Mentor Ray Fremista, Mentor Bonnie Factor, Mentor Neil Numakad, Mentor Rona Florentino, and Mentor Tina Coang. But nevertheless, they will be joining us in our next episodes here at the HR Cafe. May mga kailangan lang po talagang asikasuhan. Iba po mga mentors, iba po very busy sa kanilang mga own projects at yung iba naman ay merong mga ina-attend ng mga trainings and conferences. But inaasahan po natin na sila po ay mag-join again sa atin sa mga susunod na episodes. So let's start our program, mga mentors, for the Wow Quote for the Week. The Wow Quote for the Week for today is coming from Mr. David Novak. And according to Mr. David Novak, when you put people first and then surround them with the processes and disciplines that recognize their efforts, performance will soar. Let me just repeat this. According to David Novak is a co-founder and former CEO of YUM Brands Incorporated, one of the food and beverage brands in the US. According to David Novak, when you put people first and then surround them with the processes and disciplines that recognize their efforts, performance will soar. Mentors, what is your thoughts about this particular quote? How does this quote resonates to you? At bago yan, inaanyayahan din po namin ang mga nanonood ngayon ng live. We have almost 60 plus people watching us right now. Please put at the comment section what are your thoughts about this Wow Quote for the Week. Ilagay nyo rin po yung pangalan, taga saan po kayo, anong company nyo para po mag-greet din po namin kayo. Okay, so let's start with Mentor Jake. Mentor Jake, Wow Quote for the Week. How is this particular quote for the week resonates to you?
Right, thank you for this quote, and I know that this is not just for small business enterprise or even sa mga starting businesses, but also those businesses na established na. No, so we're talking about the organization, and it just emphasize here the importance ng prioritizing of our people within the organization and creating an environment where values and they recognize their contributions. So this is very important to have an employee-centric approach wherein yung people is laging nangunguna in terms sa kanilang well-being, sa growth and development. And when there is no process, documentation na tinatawag, then it's hard for them to feel valued and supported. So having these processes would also help them to be recognized and appreciate. They can feel empowered and having those ownership in terms sa kanilang autonomy sa decision making, yung kanilang authority, and some opportunities for improvement and growth into more of a higher level or satisfaction. So usually sa atin, companies or organizations, di ba, we have processes. And when we put it in place, then we can imply or impose the discipline na kailangan din sa isang organization to move, right? Now, sa having clear processes or guidelines or having the standard na tinatawag would provide the structure. Kaya nga, from the organizational structure, yung level of authority natin is very important, yung direction, and would help the employees understand yung expectation ng company and how do they perform yung kanilang jobs or duties. So there are meeting of the minds. So with this, it's very important to have a processes so then they can also perform well. So that's like soaring high in their performance.
Uh,
Yes.
Thank you for that, Mentor Jake. Mentor Jamie, what are your thoughts about this? Welcome for the week.
I agree, of course, with what Mentor Jack had mentioned. Ako din, nakita ko naman all throughout ng pagiging L&D manager ko, nakita ko po siya na kasi we have different types of employees, right? They do have different personalities. Some of them love to follow rules, and there are those talaga, hindi ko alam kung naka-encounter kayo na medyo may pagka-deviant sila. Hindi naman sinasadya, but it just so happened, it's just part of them. But when the company's culture, company's priority communicates talaga sa kanila, nakikita nila na inuuna sila o nabibigyan ng priority ang mga tao, it's easily for them, yung mga, kasi walang problema if masunurin na empleyado ang meron tayo, pero meron at meron talaga na hindi naman sa pasaway, kaya lang they are not just parang ang hirap i-bound nila ng mga restrictions. So once they know that inuuna natin ng tao, and the reason why we have processes and disciplines are actually para sa ikabubuti ng bawat isa, plus the quality, i-uphold yung standards ng company, then it will be easier for them actually to follow. It takes time then yung communication style natin, how we will actually communicate with them in different platforms. Pero once they actually really see it, at hindi lang nila masasabi na sinasabi lang ng company yan, but they actually really feel it through some examples that was shared a while ago. Katulad ng sabi dito sa quote ni David Novak, ayan, that they recognize their efforts, performance will soon soar. Kasi the disciplines and the process are there kasi we know na we can target efficiency and at the same time for the para ikabubuti ng kumpanya. Meron kasi ako na-encounter mga mentors and Coach Darwin and everyone else na minsan ang thinking lang nila na yung process naman yan para lang sa kumpanya. Hindi nila na-feel na it's actually kasama sila doon. We are part of the company. So I think this definitely makes a lot of sense na kapag napa-communicate natin sa kanila that the processes and disciplines are not punitive, but it's for their advantage, mas madali nilang susundin and ipuput into practice. And we can reach our goals.
Thank you for that, Mentor Jamie. Mentor Alan, also as a learning and development practitioner, what's your take on this quote from David Novak? Mentor Alan, you're on mute. You're on mute, Alan.
Ayun, sorry. Anyway, during the 90s, mga late 90s yata or mid-90s, the battle cry was customer first. Remember that? Lalo na nung ang ina-hype noon was the TQM, then eventually yung customer centricity. So yung mga trainings natin noon, naka-focus dun sa customer centricity, customer first. Ngayon, nung pumasok yung bagong millennium, people first na, employee first na. So, bakit ganun? Meron bang conflict ito? Meron bang talagang tag-war? When you analyze carefully, you cannot serve the customers at your best if you have an employee, a workforce who have a very low self-esteem, low moral. 'Di ba? Kaya paano mo ma-fulfill yung customer first kung yung employee mo patay na, bugbog na, psychologically challenged, no? Kaya it will manifest in the customer service if they are not happy anymore. Kaya nagbago ng paradigm. Mukhang kailangan nating i-refocus at pumunta muna sa people first or customer first. So, that is now the battle cry. HR practitioners should prioritize the needs, concerns, and aspirations of employees. This means creating a workplace culture that values individuals as unique contributors and respects their dignity, autonomy, and growth. Kasi by prioritizing people, HR professionals can cultivate an environment where employees feel valued, motivated, and engaged. Bigyan mo pa ng sapat na recognition and appreciation, tapos backupan mo pa ng pulido, no, na processes and disciplines while prioritizing people. It is essential na equally important kasi to surround them with effective processes, systems, and disciplines that support their success. Now, HR practitioners are responsible for designing and implementing HR policies, procedures, and practices that align with organizational goals and values. Di ba? Yan naman trabaho natin eh. This includes, syempre, yung ating mga ginagawa everyday, recruitment and onboarding processes, performance management system, lalong-lalo na ang training and development, dapat aligned lahat yan dun sa directions na yun. Now, let's go to driving performance. By prioritizing people and implementing supportive processes, kababanggit ko lang, HR practitioners can now create an environment where performance can soar. Talagang lilipad dyan. Para kang merong mga mga eroplano sa iyong barko, no, yung malalaking barko na mayroong mga sakay na mga airplane na mga jet fighters, no. So ready for battle yung mga tao natin. I mean, ready for the battle against the competition to get customers for their company. HR practitioners can create an environment where performance can soar. When employees feel valued and supported and empowered, they're more likely to be motivated. Di ba? So,
Agree.
they're more likely to be committed, they're more likely to be productive. This in turn leads to improved organizational performance, innovation, and even it becomes a competitive advantage for the company. Yun yung take ko, Sir Darwin. Back to you.
Thank you for that, Sir Alan, Sir Jamie, and mentor John Jackson. For me, before ko i-share yung aking take about this walk for the week, let me just greet our audiences. We have Chris Galvez. We have, Ma'am Apa Aquino. Ma'am, kumusta na po kayo? Thank you for watching HR Cafe. We also have Shari Ocampo. We also have M. Marlo. We have Maria Cristina Bautista from San Fernando, Pampanga. We have students from Nueva Ecija watching us. We have Eileen Toplano. We have Jehan Ruth Viendo watching all the way from Negros. We have people watching us from Cabuyao, Sherwin Gomez from Muntinlupa, and a lot more watching us from the different parts of the Philippines. Tama yung mga sinabi niyo mga mentors. For me, this particular wow quote for the week coming from David Novak, it reminds us about another quote where sinasabi na for you to win the marketplace, you have to first win your workforce, your employees. And for you to win your employees, you have to have the right processes in place, because having the right processes in place, policies, processes, and when it comes to performance management, when it comes to discipline, it creates a system. And there will be no ambiguity on how employees should meet their performance goals, no ambiguity when it comes to the proper decorum of the employees inside the organization. So if that is being communicated transparently to all of the employees, they know what the company expect from them. And if the company, of course, needs to have a reward system so that employees who are following uh, those policies and processes and is exceeding expectations should be rewarded, then you will have a very good performance. The efficiency will rise, and you will have productivity will rise, and of course, revenue will rise, and it will be very good for everyone. So that's my take for the wow quote for the week. For all our audience, if you have your opinions about this wow quote for the week, please put it at the comment section, and we'll be happy to share it also to our community. Let's go to our HR question for the week. So this HR question for the week is very trending sa Philippines HR group. An employee posted this. He filed a case against his former company after resigning. And sabi niya, na-complete naman daw niya yung proper notice period. Now, it's almost 7 months from the time that he resigned, and yung former employer niya nag-reach out sa kanya about his final paycheck. And ang gusto niyang malaman, pwede ba siyang bayaran ng kumpanya, yung dati niyang kumpanya, doon sa time na nag-wait siya for 7 months. Kasi gusto niya i-negotiate doon sa company na since hindi mo ni-release yung final pay ko agad, and since naghintay ako ng 7 months, kailangan bayaran mo ako. Is this something that is applicable in the labor system, or is it something allowed by the law? Let's hear your take on this, Mentor Jackson.
Right. So I'm reading the question, and it's for me it's not really as a complete context kasi pag binasa natin, nag-resign siya, that's number one. And we have a misconception about the separation pay and the final paycheck, which later I'll share with you. So, but the word he resigned and he completed yung notice period, let's say 30 days or 45 days as agreed sa contract nila. And now, after 7 months, bumalik si former employer niya at sinasabi, okay, let's settle the final paycheck. Now, yung kanyang pag-iisip is, am I going to demand? Kasi how much can I ask? Okay? So the word resign and how much can I ask after 7 months of the resignation. But I think there's some misconception about that, or maybe he misunderstood the separation pay and the final pay. So there are a lot of miscommunication about the final pay, which really caused the confusion, katulad nung isang employee or isang member natin na nagtanong because kung saan nga ba siya entitled after he leave the job. So for the separation pay, it's a form of compensation na pinoprovide sa ating mga empleyado kung na-terminate in an authorized cause. Alright? So it signals yung termination that was not the employee's fault. So whether one, for example, is a retrenchment, next could be closure or cessation ng operation, when the employee is also suffering from diseases or not curable within 6 months, or lack of assignment. Okay, and now there's also other instances for the separation pay wherein yung a fraction of the month will be treated as a complete year in calculating the separation when they, for example, install yung employer labor saving devices that now hindi na kailangan yung service niya, but because they installed additional labor saving devices. It could also be part of redundancy or lack of service of a security guard, for example, by reason of age. So that could mean for the separation pay. And sometimes for the separation pay, depende sa pag-uusap talaga yan. Now that we can now ask how much can I ask. Although they can give a certain percentage like half or a fraction, all right, or the whole year. But sometimes because of those instances, like for example, I've experienced this many times when I do it for those employees na may medical conditions, and because of our company also valued these employees, so they can do higher, sometimes twice ang nabibigay or one and a half more than to what they ought to get. Now for that's for the separation pay. The context of this is he resigned, so it's voluntary. Now there's a final pay computation scenario that we can also look into. Like for example, February siya nag-resign, all right? Let's say February 1, all right? Now, depende rin sa pay cut-off nila, they can withhold the salary, let's say half of that, pwede, and then another half, pwede. Some company will not as long as na nagkakaroon na ng notice period. But that's number one. You have the salary at the end of the February, then you have the accrued 13-month pay, and the tax annualization. So, meron pa tayong BIR form or the 2316 and other benefits that you can ask. Some example could be if you can encash your leave, for example, or any other benefit that you have, no? Yung mga hindi na kalkula na, for example, um, sa iyong computer or load allowance and other benefits. This is a management prerogative to include or exclude other benefit. But that is fixed for the final paycheck. You may inquire, but you cannot demand or ask more than that. Okay? So just to give the context of the separation pay and the final paycheck. So hope that this is clear, that now even after 7 months, maybe they withhold it because you filed a case, and we don't know if you win the case or now it's clear that they want to settle it. But even after 7 months, they might have no prescriptive date as long as na meron tayong case na kailangang sagutin. At once it's final, kaya ka ni-reach out maaari because they now wanted to give you what is due to you. So hope that is clear for you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mentor Jake. Ako, for me, ano lang, let's make this simple. The employee resigned. So when an employee resigned, basically, hindi siya entitled sa any separation pay. Kasi a resignation would equate to, it's her choice eh. So it's voluntary. So hindi siya under ng authorized causes, right? So only those termination under authorized causes are being paid separation pay. And yun, doon nagkahamali yung mga tao, nakala nila yung tenure nila babayaran pag nag-resign sila. Ang binabayaran lang po ng separation pay doon sa tenure is pag authorized cause. Since nag-resign po kayo, wala po kayong makukuhang separation pay. Full and final pay lang po siya. Ang full and final pay po ay, binanggit na ni Mentor Jake, prorated 13-month pay, unpaid work days, at kung meron po kayong mga payables na hindi pa nabibigay ng company like leave credits na po pwede i-convert to cash or any other allowances na allowed ng policy ng company to be given to you upon your resignation. Now, what I'm seeing here in this particular scenario is, nag-resign siya, pero nag-file siya ng case sa DOLE. DOLE kasi is not a judicial, it's not a labor court. What DOLE would only do is to mediate between the employer and the employee. Kung hindi magkasundo sa mediation, i-recommend ng DOLE na iakyat yung case nyo sa NLRC. NLRC is a judicial Board of Labor. Yun doon ang labor court. So, kaya siya tumagal ng 7 months. So, maaring doon sa period ng 7 months na tinatry kayong immediate ang DOLE, hindi kayo nagkasundo, maaring hindi mo pa na-complete yung final pay, hindi mo pa na-complete yung clearance process mo. Kasi hindi naman ibig sabihin na pag nag-resign ka, finish ka ng 30-day notice, bibigay ka agad yung final pay mo within 30 days. Kung nag 30-day notice period ka, kailangan mong makomplete yung clearance process mo. Kasi karapatan ng kumpanya na i-clear ka dapat bago mo makuha yung final pay mo. Now, at this particular scenario, I doubt that there will be any compensation for the time that you will be waiting because of the 7 months that you've waited for your release of the full and final pay. Ano po yan? Hindi po yan compensable kasi basically, choice mo nag-resign, choice mo rin na dapat during that time nakapagtrabaho ka na. 'Di ba? Wala namang pumipigil sa iyo na hindi magtrabaho. Wala namang pumipigil sa iyo na hindi mag-seek ng other sources of income. Ang hinihintay mo na lamang dito is magkasundo kayo ng employer mo with regards to the release of final pay. Dumaan sa process from DOLE napunta sa LLRC. So nagtagal talaga siya. So for me, there won't be any compensation that you will be paid because of just waiting for 7 months. Okay, so let's go to our next topic. HR Learning of the Week. This is about confidentiality agreement. Mentor Jamie, Mentor Alan, what's your take on confidentiality agreement? You might want to read it, Mentor Jamie.
Yes, when we talk about the HR Learning of the Week, so confidentiality agreement. Now, this is an agreement between an employer and employee in which the employee may not disclose branded, patented, or confidential information. Many companies have protected information that, if leaked, could be devastating for the brand or welfare of the organization. A confidentiality agreement serves as a legal protection from this. Ayan, Mentor Alan, ikaw muna. What's your take on this?
Okay. Dito sa bagay na to, importante talaga na maprotektahan siyempre no, yung mga confidential information ng company. Kaya nga may tinatawag tayong yung mga assets na yan, they are protected. Now, this is between the employer and the employee. Siguro what the company can do, especially in the with the collaboration of HR, no, is to ensure that the confidentiality agreement is enforced. So we should require employees to sign confidentiality agreements that outline their obligation to protect sensitive information, hindi ba? And ano yung mga consequences if there is a breach of confidentiality should be clear to the employees. Okay? And isa pang preventive, dapat merong access control. There should be limit to access to confidential information. And only those employees who require it sa kanilang performance of duties ang pwede mag-access. Implement password protection, encryption, and other security measures to prevent unauthorized access. Importante rin yung employee training kasi dapat nasasama natin ito, no, that there should be a comprehensive training to employees on the importance of confidentiality. Yung mga types of information that require protection, at saka sama na natin dito yung mga best practices for safeguarding sensitive data. And speaking of training, isama na natin sa training yung orientation about the policies and procedures na connected sa protection of confidential information, including the guidelines for storage, transmission, disposal of sensitive data. NDA talaga very important yan, the non-disclosure agreements. Dahil pag yan po ay absent sa inyong agreement with the employee, isipin nila wala naman akong obligasyon wala naman akong pinirmahan So pwede ko itong i-share sa bago kong employer na kalaban ng aking dating employer. Nako po, you are disrupting the industry when you do that. Of course, alam mo, ang dami mga unethical na mga employees na they're doing this, no? Pero alam niyo po, kung kayo man po ay na-employ ng kalaban ng inyong dating employer, ethics na lang ang pinag-uusapan dyan. Siguro you have to practice personal ethics, because that is really, really improper. Kaya ka siguro nagpa-pirate because, kaya ka pinirate because of that purpose, no? They want to get those information. Masakit po yun pag ginawa sa inyo kapag businessman din kayo balang araw. Isa pang safeguard yung regular audits and monitoring. We should conduct regular audits and monitoring to access confidential information, to detect any unauthorized or suspicious activities na ginagawa ng ating mga employees. Very important yan. So HR, malaki ang HR practitioners, HR professionals, HR people, malaki ang ginagampanan ng nating role dito pagdating sa safeguard. Okay, so
Okay.
huli na lang yung physical security measure, and you need to collaborate with, especially with IT pagdating sa bagay na to, para masiguro lang yung confidentiality ng ating mga data, because that is a very important asset of your company, and it is our role as HR to enforce the policies and procedures and the safeguard, mga protection, para hindi mangyari yung mga ganun. Okay, something's wrong with the line yata. Back to you, Sir Darwin.
Yes. So, hi, Mentor Jake. So, we were just discussing, and Coach Alan or Mentor Alan actually just mentioned something about confidentiality. And I definitely agree with that, right, Mentor Jake? Because confidentiality is very important. And I think what I could also add on to that is, lalo na pag sa training po, it's very important to spell out kung ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng confidentiality, especially for the new hires, mga bagong nagtrabaho, at maybe came from another company. Because lalo na yung kahit simple information, minsan doon nadadali, di ba? Mentor Jake and Coach Alan and Coach Dor. I was just saying to Mentor Jake na pag may mga new hires tayo, lalo na bago nagtrabaho, I agree with Coach Alan, kailangan talaga tinitrain thoroughly. Kasi kahit yung parang common na sa ating mga, parang it's so practical for us na in the industry or in the company already, for the new hires, they might not actually think na ito pala yung ibig sabihin ng confidentiality. So for HR, so very important yon. So determine the level of entry din ng ating mga applicants or yung ating mga employees, so that at least we know how in-depth we could actually go through kung ano ba yung confidentiality, so that maiwasan yung mga possible commonly committed errors na ay confidential pala yon, I didn't know. And gusto ko yung nasabi din ni Coach Alan kanina na sometimes people don't know na confidentiality, once you sign it, it goes and extends beyond your tenure or yung contract mo with the company, na minsan they just, yung nagsasalita na sila sa iba na hindi nila alam ay I'm still bound doon sa pinaka-contract na yun. So, what you could also do, like for me, kung meron talaga mga departments na talaga may mga confidential data na minsan unintentionally nabablurt out na or nasa say ng mga employees from different departments, ako, during the orientation, I invite some departments, not only for their departments to be known, also to the new hires, but at the same time, so that they will know, ito pala ibig sabihin ng confidentiality sa department na ito. So it's our main product, so we have to be very careful about it. And yes, it's simply knowing and be responsible and hoping, sabi nga ni Coach Alan kanina, sana wala naman pag, alam mo yung ma-pirate kayo ng ibang company, still maintain that integrity nang sa gayon ay, what goes around comes around. So it's very important na integrity must be maintained. Ayan. How
Proper
about you?
communication is the key, and it's very important that we
Agree.
have processes and policies supporting confidential agreements. Now, let's go to our updates with regards to DOLE, SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig. We have almost 100 people right now in our audience. So let me just start. So update on DOLE. So peso institutionalization to ensure sustained employment services at the local government units. The Department of Labor and Employment and the Department of Interior and Local Government and Public Employment Service Office and the Managers Association of the Philippines collaborate to institutionalize the peso nationwide. Alam niyo po kasi dati, ang peso, hindi lang po siya under ng DOLE. Under po siya ng LGU. So ngayon, what will happen is that dahil institutionalized na ang peso, magkakaroon na po ng permanent plantilla ang mga possessions na under ng peso, magkakaroon na po sila ng sarili nilang budget allocation and they will have a designated office space, which is vital in the sustainable delivery of public employment services at the LGU level. So, with 40% of the 1,592 established pesos in the country already institutionalized, the DOLE or Department of Labor is rationalized to the remaining 60% to intensify advocacy. So, mas makakatulong na po ang mga peso office sa ating mga mamamayan na naghahanap ng opportunity at trabaho. Next po ay, ito po yung magandang balita para sa mga taga Davao Region. Alam niyo po na ang Regional Tripartite Wage and Productivity Board ng Region 11, which is Davao, ay nag-issue po ng wage order number RB 9-11-22 on 13th of February 2024. Ito po ay nagka-grant ng 19 pesos daily increase for the minimum wage earners upon effectivity, an additional 19 pesos as second tranche on September 1 to 2024. This brings the daily minimum wage in the region to 401 for the non-agricultural sector and 481 for the non-agricultural and 491 for the agricultural sector. Now, aside from dito, the regional board also announced that nagkakaroon po ng increase yung mga kasambahay po natin na taga Davao. So may increase po sila na nag-range ng 500 to 1,500 depending on the area. So the monthly wage rate for chartered cities and first-class municipalities in the region will now be 6,000 and 5,000 for other municipalities. Magandang balita po ito para sa mga manggagawa para sa Davao region. Now, let's go to mentor who's assigned for SSS. Ikaw ba, Mentor Jamie?
SSS, hello. All right. So we have the SSS update or the advisory. So now the SSS is inviting us for their episode 2 ng ESS Eskwela webinar at dito alamin natin kung paano mag-register bilang self-employed member ng SSS kasi karamihan because we change into this great portal that is accessible to our mga kababayans even abroad or even dito sa Pilipinas. Now there is a better way that you can also update your SSS through this webinar there. So, meron silang topic, how to register as self-employed and upgrade UMID card to UMID Pay card. At dito naman para sa mga job order personals in public sector, kayo ay covered na rin ng Kasangga Collect Program ng SSS. So what you need to do is to scan the QR code for more information. So this will happen February 28, 2024, 8:30 to 12 noon. So see you there.
Mentor Jamie, balita tungkol sa pag-ibig.
Maraming salamat, Coach Dar. Alam niyo po ba na meron ng 100,000 members ang merong bagong bahay dahil sa pag-ibig. So in 2023 po, nagkaroon ng record high 126 billion pesos na nakapag-loan sa pag-ibig. And they release record high home loans to finance the housing units of 96,848 members. Isa ka ba doon? Ayan, its top officials announced February 8 last Thursday, and the amount of housing loans released in 2023 grew by 8.19 billion pesos or 7% po compared to the 117.85 billion pesos released last year. At hindi lang po yan, meron pa. So meron din po, ayan yung sa kasunod po natin, ayan, para sa mga family, may mga family, kung kayo po ay magkakaroon ng family date, meron po mga discounts na ino-offer po ang ating pag-ibig. So ang kailangan lang po ninyong dalhin ay yung inyong pag-ibig, ayan, loyalty card po, or meron pa po yung loyalty card plus. So make sure po na you present this at magkakaroon po kayo ng discount sa Enchanted Kingdom, 15%, WOF po, time zone, or you can just simply scan po yung ating QR code that you can see from the screen. At syempre, kung sakasakali naman po, hindi nyo kasama ang inyong pamilya at kayo lamang po ng iyong loved one. So, meron din po silang tinatawag na Pag-ibig Day with Love. So, ayan naman po, you can scan the QR code at maaari po kayo magkaroon ng mga discounts from this establishment, yung Hapchan, Figaro, at Shakey's. Ayan po.
Okay, thank you very much, Mentor Jamie. Mentor Alan, update from PhilHealth.
Okay, sa PhilHealth naman po, ito yung paborito nating agency, no, dahil ang dami mo na itutulong ng PhilHealth, lalong-lalo na sa mga taong nasa gitna ng distress dahil sila po ay merong karamdamang pisikal. Ito po, no, dun sa kanilang Z benefits na ipinamamahagi po at na-enjoy ng mga members ng PhilHealth. Ito po yung selected orthopedic implants is also part of the Z benefits. So para sa nangangailangan ng orthopedic implants para palitan ang nasirang joint, buto, or litid, ito po yung saklaw niyan. Saklaw ng benepisyo ang gastusin para sa operasyon at rehabilitasyon ng pasyente. Sagot ng PhilHealth, ang mga implants para sa hip arthroplasty, hip fixation, petrocanteric fracture, femoral at tibial shaft fracture, total knee replacement, and upper extremities. Kaya para inyo itong ma-enjoy or ma-avail, kailangan lamang na magkaroon ng aprobadong pre-authorization request na isusumite ng ospital sa PhilHealth kasama ang mga sumusunod: ang pre-authorization checklist request at kopya ng member empowerment form, at dapat isumite sa loob ng 2 working days kapag emergency cases at 7 working days para sa non-emergency cases. At tungkol naman sa iba pang updates, ang PhilHealth ay nag-aanunsyo na meron silang 24/7 hotline. Nabanggit na to mga nakaraang episodes din. So inuulit namin, meron po silang 24/7 hotline. At ito po ay numbers 8662, no? 2588. At it is open 24/7, 365 days for all concerns from its members. Kaya hindi na problema kung madaling araw, hating gabi, meron po kayong pangailangang tulong mula sa kanila, pwede na silang tawagan 24/7, 365 days a year. No weekends, no holidays. And you can contact them dun sa nabanggit kong numero, and you can also contact them doon naman sa iba pang mga numero nila, mga cellphones. And for more information, please visit their website and other social media accounts. Right? At meron din pong anunsyo ang PHRG. Binabalik po namin ang 2-day HR Core Training Program at ito po ay gaganapin dito sa Manila at ito po ang Batch 5. No? Ang topics ay total rewards, labor relations, talent acquisition, learning and development. Details, ito po ay gaganapin on March 16 and 17 sa taong kasalukuyan. Ito po ay Sabado at Linggo. Sa siguro ang oras ay 8 a.m. hanggang 5 p.m. Saan gaganapin? Discovery Suites, Manila. Dito po yan sa Ortigas Center, Pasig City. Isa sa mga pinakamagandang hotel diyan po sa Pasig, no? Learning investment ay kayang-kaya po ninyo at ito ay 4799, no? At kapag bawat participant. Pero meron din po kaming ino-offer na group rate, may discount kapag grupo po ang sasali, ang gusto mag-enroll. Sir Darwin, meron kang gustong i-announce tungkol sa event
Yes.
ng sa Marina Bali.
Yes. Thank you very much, Sir Alan. At again, inaanyahan po namin kayo na mag-attend ng 2-day HR Core Training Program this coming March 16-17. Mag-email lamang po kayo sa philippines.hrgroup@gmail.com for any information. Yung registration po niyan ng 2-day HR Core Training Program nasa announcement page po sa Philippines HR Group. Now, ang Philippine HR Group po, sumasama po ito sa mga international conferences. And over the past 3 years, we've been going to different countries. We've had delegations in Malaysia, in Singapore, in Vietnam. And for this year, we are partnering with 2 large event organizers. Of course, ang People Matters na magkakaroon po ng Tech HR program. It's one of the largest HR expo in the ASEAN region. Ito po ay mangyayari sa July 18, 2024 sa Singapore at also this coming October 16 and 17 ang Build a Future Team Conference sa Bali, Indonesia. So dun po sa mga naka-attend na po ng mga events namin sa Singapore, something to look forward to this year. Mag-ipon-ipon na po tayo for our conferences for Bali and Singapore. At ang maganda po nito, dahil partner po natin itong mga associations na to, meron pong exclusive discounts and privileges ang mga members natin. Kaya po talagang uma-attend po ang mga HR leaders from the Philippines kasi napakamura po namin nakukuha yan because they're a member of the Philippines HR Group. And there will also be a job fair and HR conference this coming July. Ito po sa Mega Trade Hall. This coming July 26. Ito po under the Get Hired. Get Hired is a job application app. At kami po, ang Philippine HR Group is one of the partners of Get Hired. At inaanyahan po namin kayo na mag-attend po ng job fair dito sa Mega Trade Hall sa 5th level SM Mega Mall B, July 26, Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And before we go to our main topic for today, yung second part, yung ating speaker, nag-aantay na si Dr. Mark Lawrence Relova, inaanyahan po namin kayo kasi meron po kaming another collaboration na mangyayari sa Philippine HR Group. This is with GCash under G-Jobs. So makikita niyo na po in the very near future ang Philippine HR Group magkakaroon po ng sarili niyang logo sa GCash. Under po siya ng G-Jobs. Kung mag-a-apply po kayo ng work, pupunta lang po kayo sa GCash app at under ng G-Jobs. At makikita nyo po lahat po ng mga available na trabaho na ino-offer ng mga companies na member ng Philippine HR Group. And to talk about it, we have Ten Mariano. Ten, are you there?
Yes, hello. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, Ten, can you please share more about the collaboration between the Philippine HR Group and G-Jobs?
Okay, I'm going to be sharing my screen, no? Hang on.
Yes, please.
All right. I'll just share my entire screen, no? So that I'll be able to um,
Yes, please.
share my presentation. All right. Okay, hang on. Can you see my screen now?
Can you
Okay.
maximize? Yes, please.
All right. Sige. So first of all, thank you for having me here. So I'm Ten Mariano, I'm the founder of Pasa Job, which is now available in GCash as G Jobs, no, as Darwin has mentioned. So we would like to invite all of the members of the Philippines HR group to be part of this revolution. We are revolutionizing the job market for every recruiter, every referrer, and job seeker. How? So first of all, we'd like to give you an overview. Ano ba yung problem na binibigyan natin ng solusyon? Mahirap kasi para sa maraming mga employers, mga HR recruiters na makahanap ng mga candidates, ng tamang candidates para sa mga job openings. Bakit ganun? So makikita niyo dito sa screen, merong 1.3 million na vacancies in any given year, pero meron ding 1.6 na unemployed. Hindi ba pwedeng magkita na lang yung dalawa para yung 1.6 million isalin natin sa 1.3 million na vacancies? Ang problem is that not all jobs are known to those who are looking for jobs. So maraming mga trabaho na hindi alam ng mga job seekers kasi hindi naman siya properly na na-communicate sa kanila. No? So yung mga employers, nagtatanong, nasan ba yung mga candidates na yan? Nandun lang sila. Hindi lang nagtatagpo yung dalawa. So, opportunities and referrers. In the entire job market, it's about, in the entire industry, it's 30 to 50%. Pero sa BPO space, it's about 55% of all new hires are contributed by referrals. So we have three, actually we're going to be zooming in on two solutions. So yung una ay yung tinatawag na job board, no? So meron job board yung Pasa Job. Makikita niyo yan. If you go to seeker.pasajob.com, you will see all of our openings. Ang kakaiba sa job board ng Pasa Job is that all of our jobs have referral fees. So yung referral fees na yun, pwedeng makuha ng kahit sino. So dati yung mga incentives, no, yung mga referral fees na available lang para sa mga recruiters. Ngayon, available na sa bawat isa sa atin. So it gives us a chance to monetize the one resource that we all have, which is our social capital. You can also find this job board in GJobs. So if you go to GCash, tap View All, scroll down to Enjoy, and then makikita yung Jobs icon, tap on it, and it's automatically going to open GJobs. And then, para naman sa mga senior or technical positions, merong Recruiter Circle. Let me just zoom in on those two. Number one, Pasa Job. So Pasa Job is the country's first long-chain job referral platform, which rewards individuals like you and me for connecting employers to the right candidates. So para sa mga recruiters o sa mga HR, members ng HR ngayon, ang posting fee ay 1,000 pesos lang. Pagkatapos yung referral fee, kayo na yung bahala kung anong gusto nyo ibigay na referral fees. Yung referral fees hindi nyo kailangan bayaran muna. Babayaran nyo lang siya kapag meron na kayong na-hire. Pero ang good news, no, sabi nga kanina ni Darwin, na there are exclusive discounts and privileges for Philippines HR group members. And this is something that we were offering only to Philippines HR group members. That instead of 1,000 pesos, you can post your job opening at 900 pesos, making it the lowest priced paid job board. No? So halos lahat ng mga job boards na paid, it's more than 1,000 pesos. So now you get the chance to post for only 900 pesos. We also have some packages, no, which we can tell you about. if you reach out to us later on. We'll give you the email address that you can reach out to. So this is the first. This is the first that we are offering to the Philippines HR group. The second one that we are inviting all of the recruiters out there. No, again, hindi mga job seekers to. Kailangan yung mga recruiters or yung mga HR practitioners within Philippines HR group. We are inviting all of you to join the recruiter circle. What is the recruiter circle? So the recruiter circle is an exclusive member get member community of HR recruiters, freelance headhunters. We have partner recruitment firms and RPOs who are all helping through our own networks to fill roles for senior and technical positions that are posted or that are shared with you by our clients. No? So coming from us, we blast to the members the openings. Ano ba yung mga klase na opening? So just to give you an idea, sa job board, if you go to seeker.pasajob.com or if you visit GJobs, itong opening ng True Logic, ang referral fee niya ay 50,000 pesos. Pero para sa recruiter circle, ang referral fee niya ay actually 110,000. So this means na yung mga jobs na available doon sa job board na sa PasaJob, para sa private group, para doon sa exclusive group, more than 2 times yung halaga ng referral fees. Bakit? Kasi alam ng mga employers na kung yung recruiters mas magaling mag-vet ng mga candidates, kaya parang may premium para sa pag-vet ninyo at saka para sa pag-profile ninyo sa candidates. So maraming mga referral fees na 6 digits. No? Umaabot ang 220,000. Ang pinakamataas namin nabigay is more than 300,000, no, to one individual. So ganun kalaki yung mga pwede niyong kitain sa recruiter circle if you become part of it. And we are extending this invitation exclusively to the Philippines HR group. Meaning to say, if you want to be part of the recruiter circle, this is my last slide, apply via the freelance HR professional role in seeker.pasajob.com, or you can also find it in GJobs. And please indicate that you're a member of the Philippines HR group to boost your chance of getting in. So that's actually it. No? So if you want to be part of the recruiter circle, please reach out via the opening that we have in the group, no, in Seeker. And if you want to find out more ways, no, more solutions, more packages, please contact us at info@pasajob.com for you to hire on PasaJob and also to be part of the recruiter circle, which we're going to be giving a lot more than what we currently have, no, as we expand into new markets and industries. So thank you very much, and I hope this is something that will be beneficial for all of the members of the Philippines HR.
Thank you very much, Ten. And we will be announcing the formal collaboration between PasaJobs and the Philippine HR Group very soon. So sa mga members po natin, we will launch it formally at PHRG FE page. Maraming salamat, Mr. Ten Mariano. Now we go to our what you call this? Our main discussion for today, and this will be driving team psychological safety in the workplace. Our guest speaker for today is no other than Dr. Mark Lawrence Relova, PhD. He is the Vice President of a financial institution, a facilitator at Ateneo Cord. Mark has been a long-time friend of mine since college days. I'm very proud and happy to have him here. Matagal ko nang nililigawan yan para mag-guest dito sa HR Cafe. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark Lawrence Relova, Dr. Mark Relova. But kumusta? How are you?
I'm doing very well, Coach Darwin. Nakikinig ako kanina. Dami kong natututunan and I'm really just impressed with the coverage of topics that you guys deal with every Sunday, ano? And ito nga pa sa job na nagre-reflect ako. Ang ganda-gandang initiative for Philippines HR.
Okay, Mark, we will be giving you the floor for you to discuss to our audience. We have almost 100 audience right now watching us live, and I'm sure hundreds or thousands of more will be watching at the replay. We'll give you the floor for you to discuss about team psychological safety, its importance, and why do we need to implement it as people leaders and as HR leaders in our companies.
Salamat, Coach Darwin. And thank you everyone for being here. Kanina nagre-reflect ako, no? Normally, the sessions would happen on a Sunday. And lahat tayo nasa bahay. And itong pag-tune in natin, it's really a testament to our commitment to learn, no? Kung hindi tayo nasa bahay, definitely sana naman, ano, wala tayo sa office ngayong Sunday. But still, we find the opportunity and the time to tune in and to listen and to learn. So nung nag-uusap kami ni Coach Darwin, ano ba yung pwede nating i-share sa ating Philippines HR community, I thought of choosing a topic na unang-una pinag-aralan ko. Number 2, pinapractice natin. And number 3, we are now certifying practitioners in the Philippines. And so mamaya ipapakita ko sa inyo yan. Team Psychological Safety. Maybe narinig nyo na siya. Maybe napanood nyo siya or nabasa nyo siya. Itong session natin this afternoon is really to simplify the concept para maintindihan natin why team psychological safety is a very important enabler of team performance. So a little bit about myself, 20 years of developing teams in the country. I also worked overseas for about 7 years. As Coach Darwin mentioned, I'm currently Vice President of East West IGS Insurance. I'm also the Executive Director of a non-profit organization. It's called the World Institute for Action Learning. But if you're taking your certificate courses, and if you've taken some in Ateneo Cord, 11 years na rin ako nagtuturo sa Ateneo Cord, and I teach learning design and evaluation. My doctorate is in organization development, and my dissertation focused on team psychological safety. So sa pag-aaral ko pa lang, I was already very curious, ano ba siya? Bakit ba siya importante? And paano ba natin ito masisimplify so that all of us can have this assessment? Meron bang team psychological safety sa grupo ko? Whether I'm in a school, in an NGO, or in a private company, then ano yung magagawa ko to make sure that every day I contribute to a culture where people feel psychologically safe. So I'm an OD, L&D, and HR practitioner with over 20 years of experience. In my years of developing organizations and teams, I've had the privilege of traveling around in Asian countries and outside Asia. And these are just some of the countries that I've visited. And I've worked with these teams. May mga team na nakatrabaho ko for several months. So we'll come up with a team development program for say 8 months. Yung iba naman, very short, 5 days lang. But what I've noticed is that whether I do it in Asia or I travel as far as Belgium or in Tanzania, Africa, there's really just one element that really spells out how a team will eventually perform. It's this question: how safe do I feel as a part of this team? Ulitin ko siya ha. How safe do I feel as a member or as a part of this team? And your answer to that question really spells out, will you contribute to that team? So, yun yung pagre-reflecta natin mamaya. And later on, I'll ask you some questions. You don't need to put your answer in the comments, baka matrace ni boss yan. Pero maybe just have a self-reflection. Ano kaya yung level of team psychological safety sa team ko ngayon? So this is something that I've done for the last several years, and I've also talked about this. I think the biggest conference that I've attended live was in Bangkok, where I was the keynote speaker for about 250 international educators, and I continue to find ways to share about this. Kasi feeling ko, kung meron kayong mapupulot na wisdom or mapupulot na aral, you can immediately apply this in your respective teams, and hopefully you'll start to contribute to workplaces that are psychologically safe. Let's do some activity. Ito, 2 questions that I want to ask you. Again, reflection lang siya. No? So, ang activity natin is have you ever. Yeah. For sure, I'm sure for many of us who've played this game, but this is really related to team psychological safety. So let me ask you the first question. The first question is, have you ever experienced wanting to ask a question but deciding not to? Yung moment na gustong-gusto mo magtanong, whether it's a board meeting or it's a formal presentation, or if you're in the educational institution, no, faculty meeting and nagrepresent si principal, or you're in an LGU meeting, no, with volunteers and meron kang tanong, pero sabi mo, wag na lang. Malaki yung risk na mapahiya ka or isipin ng ibang tao, bakit mo tinatanong yan? Hindi mo pa ba alam yan? Yung ganong mga thoughts na tumatakbo sa isip natin, these are thoughts that indicate that that particular group is not psychologically safe. A lot of research would tell us that sometimes those questions that were not asked are actually the most important questions. Sayang hindi natanong. And that's why in some teams naririnig natin, no, there are no stupid questions. All questions are welcome. But really, when some people ask questions and yung ibang team members alam na nila yung sagot, ano kaya yung facial expressions nila? Do they give you that facial expression na, bakit mo tinatanong? Hindi pa ba alam yan? That's a very powerful observation in a team that tells us maybe we can do something to develop that team, to increase the psychological safety of that team. Let's go to the second question. Have you ever experienced wanting to offer an idea but choosing to stay quiet instead? Alam mo yung feeling mo makaka-contribute sa customers natin itong idea na to, or this idea will revolutionize the way we do things, or I'm not so sure about this idea. It's really just a thought, pero gusto kong sabihin, maybe it will help. But you decided not to. Itong mga ganitong experiences, I can bet you, we all experience this. Regardless of level, regardless of teams that we have been working with, lahat tayo naka-experience na nito. May quote nga, and probably this captures why we're doing this behavior. It says, people often hold back, even if they believe that what they have to say could be important for the organization, for the customer, or even for themselves. And this is what you call discounting the future. Ano ba yung discounting the future? You underplay a more important, long-lasting issue for a temporary benefit. Example, alam mo na yung question na yon, critical yon, because you really can see the risk of the action that the organization will take. You know the benefit of that for the organization, pero hindi mo na lang itatanong because the temporary benefit is that ayaw mong mapahiya si boss. Another one, you have a really bright idea that will probably put another idea of your immediate supervisor to a bad light. Okay? But instead of offering that idea, wag na lang kasi baka makagalitan ka ng iyong boss. Discounting the future. May mga temporary benefits tulad ng hindi ako mapuput on the spot, hindi ako mapapahiya, hindi ako ma-outcast sa isang grupo. I'd rather focus on those temporary benefits than the long-term, long-lasting benefits of saving our customers, saving the organization. That's a clear sign that your team has low team psychological safety. Si Nilofer Merchant, Apple administrator, and sure, you can search her up. Nagkaroon siya ng TED Talk and very powerful yung sinabi niya sa TED Talk niya. Ang sabi niya, I would rather keep my job staying within the lines than say something and risk looking stupid. Hindi ba totoo yan? Most of us would rather keep silent because safe is better than sorry. Or no one was ever fired for keeping silent. Pero hindi siya beneficial. And that's why we're having this discussion. And that's why I've taken it as a mission to speak. And if you want to invite me in your conferences, in your talks, to teach about team psychological safety and how we can create workplaces that are psychologically safe, because this is not good for the organization. This is not good for the customers, all the more for us, for our mental health. There was the CEO, Mark Costa, and he was addressing a group of second year MBA students in Harvard. And he was asked, "What's your greatest fear as a CEO?" Alam niyo yung sagot niya? "Your greatest fear as a CEO is that people are not telling you the truth." In fact, this is not just the greatest fear of a CEO. Hindi ba ito ang greatest fear ng any parent, any leader, any manager, na hindi sa'yo sinasabi ang totoo dahil natatakot sa'yo ang iyong team, ang iyong mga anak, ang iyong mga kaibigan. And that's why, through our own behaviors, through our own actions, we need to start cultivating these behaviors that will drive a psychologically safe workplace. That is what you call the danger of silence. And it's all not soft stuff, huh? This danger of silence has actually already killed companies and killed people. Let me give you two examples. I'm sure you've all heard of the story of Nokia. And depending on siguro what you're reading, what you're watching, there are many angles to the Nokia story. So Nokia na to, di ba? It started in 1865 it's a paper mill company in Nokia, Finland. And at one point, I think in the 1990s, they were the most profitable and the leading mobile phone manufacturer. In fact, they were owning about 23%, 25% of the market. In 2012, 75% of their shares eroded. And in 2013, they sold their services and the device unit to Microsoft. A group of organization development psychologists studied what happened in Nokia. In fact, Nokia was a case study for many researchers. And what did this group of organizational psychologists find out? They interviewed 76 managers, and through their own testimonies, they said there was a culture of fear in the organization. Many of these managers, every time they would question the direction of the company, especially with the advent of Google's open source Android system or yung iPhone no, ng Apple, they were already questioning what is the strategy of the company. The common response given to them was just focus on execution. Just focus on implementation. In fact, in those interview transcripts, may nagsabi na manager ng storya. At one point, an executive slammed the table so hard, he saw pieces of fruit flying across the room. There is a culture of fear. It was a dying company that couldn't keep up with the competition, but it was safer to keep silent than to speak up. The second example talks about the death not of a company, but of individuals. Tragically, you may have read about this or heard about this. On February 1, 2003, NASA's Space Shuttle Columbia, exploded. And this tragically ended the lives of 7 astronauts. Pero may nangyari. Before that happened, 2 weeks before, there was this engineer. His name is Rodney Rocha. He was watching the video of the launch of that shuttle that sunny morning in Florida. And may nakita siya sa video. May nakita siya na speck that came out of the shuttle that hit the left wing. But because it was a video, it was grainy, it was not too clear, he couldn't really figure out what that speck was. Kahit anong zoom niya, hindi niya malaman what was that particular speck. But he had a bad feeling about it. That was 2 weeks before. He emailed his boss, and the only way for him to have a clearer view was for NASA to send a request to the Department of Defense and ask for a satellite view. Imagine yung pagdadaanan no na approval from the bosses. Anong nangyari? The immediate supervisor said no, it was never approved. That tragedy happened. 1 week after the tragedy, of course, there was a formal inquisition, there was a formal mission. They reviewed the video and they saw that there's really a speck, briefcase-sized insulating foam that was detached from the shuttle, hit the leading edge of the left wing, and created a hole. Nakita ni Rodney Rocha 2 weeks before. Yet, he actually sent an emotional email to all his co-engineers, and sabi niya, engineers like me are so low in the organization, we can't we can't challenge our higher ups. I've given you 2 examples: the danger of fear, the death of an organization, and the death of individuals. But we don't need to talk about the death of organizations and individuals, because every single day, ideas are dying. Every single day, the potential of teams and individuals, it's dying. Simply because people cannot just be themselves in their teams. Madaming inhibitions, madaming fear, and this we say the untapped potential of teams, whether you're in a private company, in a public or educational institution. If you read all of these researches, let me just simplify them for you. What our researchers are saying is that more and more, we find ourselves working in teams. Hindi ba? Sino kaya sa atin yung can really exclusively say, I do not work with a team? I think wala. Kasi we're all part of a department, even if we're an individual contributor. We're all part of an organization. Even if you own a business, you still need to work with suppliers and you still need to work with vendors. We're all working with other people. And more, we start to feel that the key to success is how to empower these teams to become successful. However, and when you look at research, Harvard Business Review, pag tinignan natin yung most commonly searched topics, high-performing leadership teams ranked 8th out of 20 topics for a long period of time. So it's a really heavily researched topic, and we know the importance of making teams successful. Kilala niyo itong nasa picture, no? Si Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs nabasa natin yung libro niya, na pakinggan natin yung mga interviews with people who have worked with him, and he is not the easiest person to work with. But for a person as visionary as him, even if it's difficult to work with, eto yung quote niya. Ang sabi niya, great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people. I'll give you another story. Ito, siguro sa mga mahilig sa Olympics, this picture is familiar with you. This is a picture of the US men's team in the 1984 Olympics. It's a 4x100 meter relay. Okay? Tignan niyo yung personal best ng ating players from the US. Okay, so you have Calvin Smith, for example. Ang personal best niya, pinakamabilis niyang takbo is 9.93 seconds. Alright? Yun yung mga team members niya sa ibaba. If you sum it up, okay, just focusing on their personal best, ano yung total? 39.88. Yet, their world record is 37.83. Much better than their personal bests combined. Anong nangyari? Ito yung sinasabi natin na synergy. Narinig niyo na ba yun? 1 + 1 = 3. Yung personal best mo, kaya mo pang angatan when you work with a team of people. Pero hindi dito nagtatapos ang storya natin. They fought with another team. And this team is from France. And look at the personal bests of these people from France. Mas mabagal sila. Yung personal best ng mga players, nasa 10 seconds pataas. Yung US, nasa 9 seconds. The overall sum of this team was 40.36. Yet when they competed as a group, their world record was 37.79. And look at that when you compare, kahit mas mabagal yung players ng France, they even beat the US by a couple of milliseconds. Anong natututunan natin dito? Whether in sports, whether in psychology, whether in team performance, we all know that when you work with a team of people, this team is able to bring out the best in you, which you in yourself could not. Iyan ang value ng pagkakaroon ng isang great team. And sometimes, you don't need the best players to be part of the team. Minsan nga nagkakaproblema na ganun, di ba? You get all these best players, star players, you put them in a team, they don't know how to work together, nag-aaway-away. Mas mabuti pa yung not so best, but they know how to work well together, okay? And their collective performance outperforms those teams that are composed of star players. Let me just put this caveat. Every time we talk about team psychological safety, okay, I always inform my students that the objective is not to have high team psychological safety, but the objective is to have high team performance through high team psychological safety. In other words, yung psychological safety is really just a means to achieve higher team performance. So ang measurement pa rin natin dito, and especially when we roll out team psychological safety certification programs, is not the increase in team psychological safety, but the increase in team performance. In other words, are you now making better decisions? Are you now able to address client issues? Are you now able to grow employees in the organizations, deliver stretch performance, or perhaps improve and innovate continuously? All right, that's very important because team psychological safety is an enabler. And what does it enable? It enables team learning that leads to increased team performance. But this is the reality. It's a hard reality. When you look at all the researches, whether it's published in the last 5 years or even the classical books, no, yung mga 1970s, 1980s, napakarami na ang naipublish about individual leadership development, leadership competencies, about our strengths. A lot also have been published about organizational culture building. Yung mga predecessors, yung mga soldiers ni Peter Senge, those are focusing on organizational culture building. All great stuff. Tama silang lahat. They have wisdom to impart to the world. But pag tinignan natin ang literature, very few are published on the aspect of team learning. Mas madami yung individual learning, but how does a team actually learn? And how does it differ with individual learning? Konti yung na-publish on team learning. All the more, mas maraming na-publish on team structures to improve work performance. I think sa umpisa ng ating webinar kanina, that was one of the key questions in the HR Cafe. No? Yung, if you have team structures, enough clarity on the job, clear job descriptions, clear KPIs, clear objectives, does that lead to improved work performance? A lot of researchers are saying yes, but team psychological safety believes you need psychological safety to fuel team performance. And team learning behaviors are influenced by psychological safety. And that's what we're trying to deliver as an additional knowledge in this webinar that you're attending. The reality also is that when you talk about team development, normally, ano yung naiisip ng companies natin? Mag-trustful exercise tayo, or mag-tug of war tayo, or laro tayo. All these fun and games. There's a benefit to it, but if you keep relying on the same approach of just playing together and having fun together, hindi natin na-address yung real issues of a team, the real issues of backbiting, the real issues of people who are non-collaborative, the real issues of people who have great ideas but would rather keep it to themselves kasi nakakatakot mag-share ng ideas sa team na to. Ipapahiya ka kasi. Those are real team issues that if you don't address and you keep investing in fun exercises like this, you're not able to advance team development at a deeper level. Again, there are benefits to a team building exercise like this. We continue to do this, but it's insufficient in itself. The possibility now is nag-wonder tayo. What if we do a cross-section of the studies of teams, learning, and performance? And what if we focus on what is common to all these? No? And ito yung heart ng team psychological safety. In fact, there's a recent study by the Boston Consulting Group. Parang 2 weeks ago ko lang yata nabasa to. And it supports the researches that I've put in this slide. And sabi ko, papalitan ko pa ba tong slide nito? But they're all the same. Team psychological safety is now being attributed as the cause why people leave their jobs. Narinig nyo na ba yung, maybe narinig nyo na to, no? Yung kasabihan natin na when people leave organizations, they don't leave organizations. They leave their managers. Narinig nyo na ba yan? Narinig ko yan paulit-ulit when I was starting. Until now, narinig ko yan. But it's now being challenged. What we're learning now is that when people leave organizations, they don't necessarily leave their managers. Sometimes, and oftentimes, they leave their teams. Hindi na niya kayang matagalan yung katrabaho niya, yung ka-team niya. Sometimes gusto niya si boss. And sometimes pag alis ni employee, they continue communicating with the boss. They're very good friends with the boss, pero yung immediate team, they want to leave them because it's not psychologically safe. A lot of people are also saying that their team is not operating at its full potential, no? And there's really an opportunity for them to become a high-performing team. Okay, so how do we do this? Ito yung sinabi ni Marcus Buckingham and Goodall. And if you have time to get the books of Marcus Buckingham, they're very easy to read and they also impart a lot of wisdom. The team is the reality of your experience at work. The quality of your team experience is the quality of your work experience. And oftentimes, people stay in the company because they like their team. And people leave the organization because they don't feel safe and they couldn't be themselves in that particular team. In fact, ADP research published another finding that the mere fact that you're part of a team actually increases your engagement at work. In-interview nila yung mga employees who are not working with a team and they're lonelier, they're more detached compared to those who are working on projects, working on objectives with a team. There's a common purpose, there's a shared purpose that really fuels you to go to work every day. So ito yung traditional research. No? So the question now is, how do you unlock the key to high team performance? Tama ito. We started with this. When you have clear objectives, when you have clear KPIs, clear job descriptions, it's explained very well to the employees, okay? And there's alignment of projects and objectives, it leads to team performance. Tama ito. Pero dito tayo nagsimula. But team psychological safety would like to challenge this, okay? And I'll explain in the next few slides. Then came the next batch of researches and publications. Ang sabi natin, it's not enough that you have clear KPIs. It's not enough that you have clear goals. Kailangan mong turuan yung individual. Ano yung mga skills? Time management skills, customer service orientation, okay? Managing your emotions at work, all of these individual learning skills. Sabi natin, it's not enough that you have a clear job description. Turuan mo yung individual. And that leads to team performance. Tama rin siya. But team psychological safety also would like to challenge this. Let's go to the next slide. Ang sabi ng team psychological safety and in that research, it's not enough that you focus on individuals. You have to teach how the team learns. Because sometimes when you focus too much on individuals, they focus very much on the task that they have. And that's why meron kang mga silo mentalities. Yung silo, no? Yung kung ano yung binigay sa akin na trabaho, eto lang yung aasikasuhin ko. I can be a star player, pero yung teammate ko may not be able to catch up, but that's not my problem anymore because I'm focusing on my tasks. And so team psychological safety says, if you really want to have team, no? Isang grupo, team high performance, focus on team learning behaviors, not just individual behaviors. And the way to do that is to first focus on team psychological safety. I'll give you one example. Ano ba tong team learning and team psychological safety? Example, in your team, do you talk about mistakes? Or kapag nagkamali, nako, dapat hindi malaman ni boss, itago natin yan kasi lagot tayo dyan. Talking about mistakes, and we all know mistakes are more powerful in driving lessons than successes, no? If processed correctly. Our team learning behavior can be we spend time to talk about mistakes. What do we learn from them? Okay, and how do we move forward so that we don't repeat the same mistakes? Even if you keep teaching that, kung wala kang team psychological safety, kung alam mo kapag sinabi ko na nagkamali po ako, ipapahiya ako ng mga team members ko, no training, no development, no activity about how to process mistakes will ever flourish because you have a problem with team psychological safety. So before you talk about team learning behaviors, address first issues on team psychological safety. In a nutshell, ganito siya, yung research ng TPS. And tulad ng sinabi ko, after studying it in my PhD, reading about it, and applying it in our certification program, and I'll explain that towards the end of this talk, we teach people how you create interventions to address team psychological safety. Ito siya. It's a simple table that tells you that depending on a team that has low or high standards, a high TPS and low TPS can actually have an impact to the team. So kunyari, kung mababa na yung standards mo, wala kang job description or hindi klaro yung objectives ng isang team, at mababa pa yung team psychological safety mo, wala nang pakialam yung mga team members mo. It's called apathy zone. Pero kung mataas ang psychological safety mo, pero mababa yung standards mo, it's called comfort zone. Ang sarap pumetics. Diba? Petics tayo dito. Barkada tayo dito, dabarkads tayo dito, but mababa naman yung standards ni boss, relax, comfort zone. Kung masyadong mataas ang standards mo, pero mababa ang psychological safety mo, it's called anxiety zone. Anxious ang mga tao. Ang taas ng expectations ni boss, bawal magkamali, para ka magkaka-heart attack anytime. No? Kabado ka anytime. Takot ka magkamali. It's anxiety zone. The perfect zone is when you have clear and high standards, but you also have high psychological safety. And that's what you call learning and high performance zone. Okay? Psychological safety takes off the brakes that keeps the team from achieving what's possible. But it is not the fuel that powers the team. You still need to have clear standards, clear structures, clear KPIs and objectives. I want to make that clear. I want to emphasize that kasi isa yon sa mga misconceptions about TPS. Sobrang focus sa pagiging comfortable with one another without clear structures at nagtataka, bakit kaya hindi kami performing team? Okay? As we work with different teams and individuals, we will always find ourselves in 3 levels of working together: coordination, cooperation, collaboration. The higher it is, the more we collaborate, the more we need psychological safety. Ano-ano ba yung pagkakaiba ng tatlo? Let me simplify it for you. Yung coordination, you really just have to align separate actions, no? And iba-iba yung trabaho nyo in an organization. Example, mayroong meeting, and in that meeting, magrepresent si finance, magrepresent si HR, magrepresent si marketing, nagbibigay lang ng update sa isa't isa. It's called coordination. When you are dependent on the output of the first group, that is called cooperation. In other words, yung buong task, hinati-hati natin at binigay natin sa different units. A perfect example of this is the assembly line. Okay? Si production, kailangan tama yung production niya kasi yun ang magiging basis ni quality. Si quality, kailangan niyang gawin yung trabaho niya because si shipping nag-iintay sa kanya. So, kapag nagkaroon ng delay sa production, si quality, wala siyang i-check. At kapag walang na-produce si quality, wala rin i-ship out. That's cooperation. Hinati-hati natin yung isang task at ibinigay natin sa iba't ibang grupo. Okay? As opposed to coordination, sabay-sabay tayong nagtatrabaho, nag-update lang tayo sa isa't isa. But the highest level is what you call collaboration. Example, nagkikreate tayo ng strategic plan, nagkikreate tayo ng isang event. We all need to collaborate to co-create a shared goal. So have that reflection. In my team, do we coordinate? Do we cooperate? Or do we collaborate? And the more you collaborate, the more you need psychological safety. Because this requires sharing of ideas, this requires asking questions, this also requires being true to yourself and being authentic in your dealings with your team. Okay? Kanina pa ako banggit. Ano psychological safety, team psychological safety? Ano ba talaga siya? What is it really? And I've presented how important psychological safety is. In our research, in the literature that we're reading, we see devastations, no? Death of ideas, death of companies, death of individuals if a team does not have team psychological safety. What is it? Sisimulan ko sa research ni Google. When I say Google, anong tumatakbo sa isip natin? This is a large company, very famous for their researches, algorithms. Diba? Kapag nagse-search ka sa Google, may algorithm yan. Yung mga inputs ng mga na ibibigay sa iyo ng internet, ng website is really based on your behavior in the website. They launched a research in 2015 and it's called Project Aristotle. Maraming quotes si Aristotle. Saan ba siya famous for? Si Aristotle is famous for this quote. The sum of the parts is not the same. No. The sum of the parts is greater. I've forgotten it. The totality of the parts, okay, is greater than the sum of it. In other words, what a group can produce, okay, is not necessarily the sum of the parts. All right. So they wanted to find out, Project Aristotle, what makes a high-performing team? And they have teams around the world, okay? They studied 180 teams, 180. And they studied nationalities, they studied tenure, they studied performance. And they really would like to find out, what is it really that defines a high-performing team, okay? And you know what they found out? Ito yung findings nila. There's a great leader, there's open communication, there's common vision, okay? People are open-minded. Out of all of these traits, they found out that psychological safety is the component, the determinant of team success that overrides and that is more important than all the rest. They also identified, for example, meaning, structure and clarity, dependability, but sabi nila yung psychological safety is 4 times higher than any of these. So they researched the literature on psychological safety. May na-publish na ba on psychological safety? Okay? And what have we discovered about it? They were invited to share their story in different news outfits. They published their studies in peer-reviewed journals, in magazines, online magazines. And the more they talk about it, the more they discovered that team psychological safety actually originated in 1999. Okay? And there was this, at that time, a doctoral candidate. Her name is Amy Edmondson, who became now a Harvard professor. And pwede niyo siyang panoorin sa TED Talks. Marami siyang talks on psychological safety. Ito yung definition niya. Team psychological safety is the shared belief by members of a team that the team is safe for interpersonal risk taking. Okay? It's a shared belief. Let me focus on the word shared. If you have 8 members in a team, all 8 members will have to say this team is safe for interpersonal risk taking. Hindi pa pwede na 5 will say this is safe and the other 3 will say I disagree. That's why team psychological safety becomes a challenging concept to measure. Okay? It's a challenging concept to address because all team members will have to agree. Okay. So in that sense, it empowers inclusion. It empowers a sense of belonging, no? Kung naririnig natin yung lectures on diversity, inclusion, and belonging, team psychological safety is a team construct. However, we also have to realize that team psychological safety is a tacit behavior. In other words, it's automatic and taken for granted. Hindi siya pinag-uusapan. No? And that's why it's dangerous. Because if you don't address it, it becomes a way of how things are done here. It's a way of, ganito talaga eh. Ganito talaga dito sa team na to eh. And I don't want to talk about it. Ayokong pag-usapan kung bakit hindi ako nagtatanong. Kasi ayoko mapagalitan ng boss ko. Ayokong hindi yan pinag-usapan. It's a tacit behavior. And that's why the more you just let it be, the more it hardens and the more it becomes a problem and you don't know where to start. Sisimulan mo ngayon sa trustful exercises, sisimulan mo ngayon sa mga team building exercises, pero nag-harden na yung wrong behaviors like this. And that's why you need to unearth it. There are a lot of behaviors that constitute interpersonal risks in a team. And nakikita nyo sa slide, ano? And I'll just choose some of them. For example, kapag hindi mo alam ang sagot sa isang tanong, can you honestly and confidently say, I don't know the answer to that question without fear that you will not be judged? In a lot of teams, a lot of people will say, I will never dare to say I don't know kasi I will look stupid. Another one, when you make a mistake, what is your first reaction? Do you report your mistake and say, I need help? Or do you find a way to solve it first, hide it, and hope sana walang makadiscover na address ko na naman? These are what you call interpersonal risks. And Edmondson published all of these interpersonal risks, and this is what we want to address in team psychological safety. How do you make it safe for individuals to be themselves, to ask questions, to ask for help, to admit that they don't understand, and empower them to find answers on their own? Okay? Or giving advice to people without fear, no? That the other person will say, that's unsolicited, I will retaliate. It's said here that at work, what matters most to people is feeling they can make a contribution and that others value their work. From a tribal perspective, this means they are needed by the group and therefore less likely to be ousted. As I mentioned, team psychological safety is what needs to be addressed first. Pagkatapos, it leads to team learning behaviors such as asking for help, acknowledging if you have mistakes, that leads to team performance. Let's now go, and I'm moving now to the end of my talk. Ano ba tong 7 elements that constitute TPS? Ito siya. Okay, ito yung 7 that were published by Amy Edmondson, and we would like to train our workplaces on. And isa-isahin natin siya. Overview lang so we would remember them. Number 1, reaction to mistakes. If you make a mistake on this team, it is not really held against you. Can you reflect on that? Can you honestly say that in your respective teams, kapag nagkamali kayo, it will not be held against you? Or are we more about protecting ourselves? Okay? Huwag mo muna sabihin kay boss, please, tayo muna. Ayusin muna natin to. Okay? This is a funny flow chart, and this is part of our training. It really just shows us that people's tendency is really to either blame others or hide their mistake instead of exposing themselves and say, I made a mistake. No, and sabi dito, when you commit a mistake, you ask yourself, is it yours? If it's yours, nako, does anyone know? Okay, if no one knows, you cover it up. Okay, or after covering up, okay, you see if you can blame somebody. If not, then you move to the next step. So it's it's a behavior that expends energy. It doesn't lead to transparency. It challenges team performance because instead of just dealing with the mistake, you spend a lot of energy hiding it, no, instead of asking for help. Let's go to the second one. Members of this team are able to bring up problems and personal and tough issues. How transparent can you be in a team? Now, are you really able to bring up problems and discuss tough issues? There's this phenomenon called bike shed effect, okay, or the Parkinson's law of triviality. In a lot of team meetings, maybe when you're observing, in these team meetings, people would rather talk about trivial stuff than the real issue because they don't have the courage to talk about the real issue. Okay, and in your team, can you say the same thing? Instead of addressing the issue, no matter how uncomfortable, yung sinasabi natin na pointing the elephant in the room, okay? Addressing the problem head on. Can you do that in your team? Let's go to the third one. Accepting diversity. People on this team never reject others for being different. Okay? Or when you're different, are you being outcasted? Or you can't be yourself? Okay? Meron ditong quote from Brene Brown. It's really nice. It says, belonging is not fitting in. In fact, fitting in is the greatest barrier to belonging. Fitting in is assessing situations and groups of people, then twisting yourself in a human pretzel in order to get them to let you hang out with them. Belonging is something else entirely. It's showing up and letting yourself be seen and known as you really are. Yung diversity, inclusion, and belonging, I attended a webinar 2 nights ago, and this fantastic speaker said, diversity is you invite all sorts of people to the dance floor. Okay. Inclusion is you ask them to dance. You don't just invite them, you literally ask them to dance. Belonging is I do not wait to be invited. I will go to the dance floor because I feel comfortable dancing. Psychological safety is has the power to empower diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Number 4, taking risks. Okay, it is safe to take a risk on this team. Okay, you know, a lot of people say that a risk-averse culture is a key obstacle to innovation in their organization. In your team, if you have an idea, like a really bright idea, will you be comfortable or confident in suggesting it? Or sabihin mo, wag na lang. Kasi baka i-put down din naman. Or wag na lang, baka mag-backfire. Sa akin pa mapunta at mapahiya ako. Number 5, asking for help. It is easy to ask other members of this team for help. Okay. Can you say the same in your team? Kapag kailangan mo ng tulong, or do you go to the same person all the time? Si BFF. Kasi hindi ako safe. I don't feel safe with the other team members. Baka i-judge ako pag humingi ako ng tulong. So I'll just go to my best friend. There's this story from Steve Jobs. Ang ganda rin nito. Ito, babasahin ko sa inyo. Sabi niya in his book, I have never found anybody that did not want to help me if I asked them for help. I called up Bill when I was 12 years old. Hi, I'm Steve Jobs. I'm 12 years old. I'm a student in high school. I want to build a frequency counter, and I was wondering if you have any spare parts I could have. Bill laughed and gave me the spare parts, and he gave me a job that summer at HP Hewlett Packard. So si Bill yung founder nun. I just asked, and when people ask me, I try to be responsive to pay that debt of gratitude back. Most people never ask, and that's what separates sometimes the people who do things from their entire from the people who just dream about these things. Sorry, merong bar na nako-cover yung slide ko. I couldn't read it anymore. So, in essence, Steve is saying, you just ask. Just ask and people will help you. But that's not the case for many teams because we've all experienced asking and being ridiculed. And so, because we're human beings and we're fast learners, we're now more conscious when we ask for help. We challenge this in the context of teams. Maybe you have had a general experience. Lahat tayo naka-experience nun. But in the team that you're working with, can we challenge that experience and train our team members to be more comfortable in asking for help? And how do we do that? Step by step, we create interventions to deliver this behavior. 6, mutual support. No one on this team would deliberately act in a way that undermines my efforts. Ouch! Kasi, nung tinatanong ko to, I was running a team building workshop the other week, ano? It was huge team building workshop, and I said, one of the factors of team psychological safety is this. You can honestly tell yourself, walang magba-backbite sa team na to. Walang magtatraidor sa akin sa team na to. No one on this team will deliberately act to put me down or put my efforts down or to undermine my effort. Alam nyo, doon sa team building na yon, may mga tumingin sa kisame, may mga tumingiti, yung iba namumula because they know it's not safe in that particular team. They know some of those team members would backbite, would tell stories about them. Diba? In one training, leadership training, it is said, one leadership skill is this: be loyal to the absent. Let me repeat that. A leadership skill, and I'm not talking about just managers. Everyone is a leader. Everyone listening to this webinar is a leader. A critical skill is be loyal to the absent. That supports team psychological safety. Unfortunately, a lot of teams are not like that. In fact, this image is very powerful when things go wrong. You know, anong reaction ng mga tao? I'm sure glad the whole isn't at our end. Kita mo na nahihirapan na yung teammates mo. And ikaw, well, ito yung task na binigay sa akin. Ito yung accountability ko to the project. I'll do whatever I can. I'll do my best to deliver my task. But if something happens to the other members of the team, that's not my responsibility. We challenge that in the context of teams. Ang hirap, no? If you reflect about the 7, there are only 7, okay? But they're really behavioral in nature, and it requires an overnight development to develop these behaviors, because somewhere along the line, along our experience, somewhere in our history of working with other people, we've been burned by these behaviors. We tried to ask for help, we were ridiculed. We asked a question, okay? We were put on the spot. We tried to offer an idea that we really sincerely thought it will benefit the company, but we were asked to be silent. And let's go to the 7. Working with members of this team, my unique skills and talents are valued and utilized. Okay? And this is from Maya Angelou. She said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. At the end of the day, it's about how you make people feel appreciated, because people who are appreciated will deliver the extra mile. People who feel that they're part of a team. We're tribal in nature, 'di ba? In the primitive brain in neuroscience, okay, the brain is a social brain, okay, and the way we connect and the way we experience life is through relationships, and that's why appreciation should always be part, okay, of a psychologically safe team. Hindi lang yan appreciation of results, ha. Sometimes natutunan ko to as a manager. I was waiting for the results. I was waiting for the results. I was withholding my appreciation kasi iniintay ko yung results na ma-deliver sa akin. But the results never came. What I missed as a manager was that I was not appreciating the effort. So let me repeat that. When we appreciate, don't just appreciate the results, appreciate the effort, because that person is giving his best. That person is toiling, no? Is really wanting to be successful. Sometimes all you need is a little bit of encouragement. So those are the 7 elements that constitute team psychological safety. And again, in the after studying it, after applying it, I'm now at the stage of my life where I certify people. We deal with each element and we create powerful interventions to shape these behaviors. Some of those that we've gathered in the workshops across the world, and there are about 180 graduates from 11 countries in psychological safety from the Team as One network. And we're offering for the first time, later I'll talk to you about it, our first course in April. First time to happen in the Philippines under the Team as One flag. These are some of the examples na nagather natin from other participants across different countries. How do you demonstrate engagement? And siguro sa atin, alam na natin to, no? Yung iba, be present and focus on the conversation. When you ask questions, you really have the intent to discover what you don't know. Be careful about your body language. In manager training, when you're doing your coaching, we teach managers to please turn off your laptop. Ibaba mo physically. Hindi yung nakikipag-usap ka, kaharap mo yung laptop mo. Diba? Also about your body language, turn to the person when you're talking to the person and do eye contact. All of these powerful non-behaviors that will really increase that sense of psychological safety. Next, be inclusive in interpersonal settings. Okay? If a team member suddenly talks negatively about another team member, as a leader, step in as courteously as you can and say, we don't tolerate that. Okay? Or build rapport, maybe connect with team members, not just on a work basis, but maybe on a personal basis as well. And be inclusive in decision making. Maybe sanay ka, no, na ikaw yung nagde-desisyon. Maybe next time around, magtanong ka muna. Ask for opinion. Ask for input. Ask for feedback. Acknowledge their input, their contribution. And when you finally create a decision, maybe explain the reasoning of your decision. Why did we arrive at this decision? Acknowledge that people have thoughts. Acknowledge that people have ideas. You're not the only person making decisions in that team. Let me end you with a story. I'm sure makaka-relate tayo dito. Pixar. 1995. If you were 3 years old or older, you may have seen the movie Toy Story. Diba? Sino ba naman sa atin ang hindi nakapanood ng Toy Story? What we don't know is that in 1995, Toy Story was so successful, okay? But 4 years after, when they launched Toy Story 2, they struggled, diba? 4 years after, they thought they could be as successful as Toy Story 1, but they struggled. Si Ed Catmull, he was the co-founder, implemented in an effort to save Toy Story 2 practice in the organization. It's called brain trust. Okay, brain trust. Ano yun? Group of people, non-producers, non-directors, non-voice talents. Group of people, they watch the movie and they give their feedback. There are rules to that. Number 1, feedback must be constructive. Number 2, it must be suggestions. Hindi siya prescriptions. Hindi pag nagbigay ka ng feedback, kailangan susunod na si management. Those are just suggestions. And number 3, it should come from a place of empathy. They did that and they found it beneficial, and they did it for all the rest of their movies because they realized that if you listen to the perspective of other people, sometimes you think you all know the answers because you're so close to the topic, or manager ka, you have 20, 30 years of experience, but sometimes you pizza guy, somebody who's just watching them up from afar, has the most ingenious idea that you will never realize. Make it safe for the organization to hear. Make it safe for the organization to listen and accommodate these ideas from all the employees. And let me end with this quote. And maybe later on, I can go back to my presentation to share the certification program. But to end the quote, it says, hiring talent simply isn't enough anymore. People have to be in the workplaces where they are able and willing to use their talent. Isn't that the most glorious thing? That you go to work not just because work gives you money that puts food on the table, but you go to work because you feel that you can really use your God-given talents. Okay, and you're contributing to a mission, to a cause so much larger than yourself, and that's your own way of leaving your legacy. Thank you, everybody. Maraming salamat. I know alas 5 na on a Sunday, but thank you for hanging on and listening to our discussion on team psychological safety. And I hope you learned one thing or two that you can apply to make your respective workplaces psychologically safe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mark Relova. Mark, before we go into our Q&A and before you share about the details of the certification and other training programs that you will be having, I would like to invite the other mentors to please join us here, Mentor Alan, Mentor Jackson, and Mentor Irish. And before they give their questions, because I'm sure the mentors would have questions about the topic, such a very interesting topic, I would also like to give a shout out to our people who have joined us throughout this show. We have VL on, we have Ace Tarquiza, we have a few people, Ann Apostol coming from Caloocan City, watching from Caloocan City. We have Maki Porques Torres saying good afternoon to all. And we have someone who's watching through our YouTube channel, Maris Abella. I think this is the first question that we will be asking from you, Mark. Is it okay to isolate a freeloader? Many efforts have been done to motivate him, but it seems it is better to give him individual tasks rather than group tasks. What's your comment or what would be your recommendation about this, Mark?
Salamat, Maris, for asking that question. Before I answer your question, I had a little bit of a brain fart kanina. Hindi ko maalala yung sinabi ni Aristotle. Ang sinabi niya, the whole is greater than the sum.
Some of its parts.
Yan. All right. So I just wanted to clarify that. Ano? So let me address that question. Team psychological safety is all about listening. Okay, it's all about understanding perspectives from the other person. So my first recommendation here is that listen to the person. How are you taking the situation from his perspective? How did we arrive at the term freeloader? Diba? Why did we come up with such a term for this person? What is the preference of this person? Okay, so that's number one. Number two, how does the team feel about it? That's the difference between an individual psychological safety and a team psychological safety. The first step is really understanding it from the point of view of the individual. The second is the team impacted? Minsan kasi preference niya, mag-isa lang siyang magtrabaho and he really would like to just deal with himself. But it's a collaborative team. We need to exchange ideas. We need to work together. And so that type of behavior may probably work in another setting, but not here. So the second voice that you need to hear is the voice of the team. Okay. And from there, how do you bridge it? You respect the preference of the person. Not all, some of us would really be an individual contributor, but you also respect the voice of the team. We have goals to accomplish. Remember that the goal of team psychological safety is not high TPS, it is increased team performance. So kung yung behavior ng tao nakaka-apekto na sa team performance, let's have an open talk about it. And that's how you arrive at your recommendations and actions.
Thank you very much for that, Mark. Also, would like to acknowledge other people who are watching us. Ann Escudero watching from Cagayan de Oro City. Someone is watching from Tarlac. Sorry, I'm not able to see your name, but is watching from Bamban, Tarlac. Sabi niya, good afternoon. Very malaman po ang discussion. Thank you. Mark, before I give the floor to the other cafe mentors, my question to you is this. We all know that psychological team safety should be part of a company's culture. Now, how would you drive the participation or the support of your leaders to really invest or to really help you as an HR leader, as a learning development practitioner, as a people leader, to really help you have a culture where there is psychological team safety in your organization? Because, for example, it will be very easy for large multinational companies, but for small or medium-sized enterprises, family-owned enterprises, wherein the culture is being dictated by the owner or the culture is being dictated by very few people. What would be your recommendation to our HR leaders watching right now, how you can get the buy-in of these leaders to really understand that psychological safety, team psychological safety has an ROI if implemented as part of your company's culture?
Sige, magandang tanong yan, Coach Darwin, and thank you for asking. Dalawa yung sagot ko. One is addressed to the HR practitioners. Never talk about team psychological safety if your team structures are not yet in place. Why am I saying that? I think I showed that in one of the slides. Team psychological safety is just an enabler of team performance, and it works if team structures are well in place. Ano ba yung team structures? Well-defined job descriptions, maayos yung KPIs natin, the organizational structure is clear, there are alignments in terms of projects. Ayusin muna natin yung BAUs, ayusin muna natin yung rudiments of a highly effective organization. Only then can we talk about team psychological safety. Remember, if you start with team psychological safety, but people are not yet clear, ano ba muna trabaho ko dito? Ano ba muna yung KPIs ko? Okay? It will only backfire. So start with team structures, to call it like that. The second one is about the leader. This was actually asked kay Amy Edmondson, no? And sabi niya, it's a fabulous question. It's a question always asked of her. What do we do? Our leader is not facilitating an environment that is psychologically safe, and we can only do so much. What can you do? Nagbigay siya ng tips. Number one, maybe challenge yourself. Instead of looking up, look down and across. Let me repeat that. Sa kanya galing to. Instead of looking up to your boss, look down and look across. Create psychologically safe behaviors in your teams. How do you deal with your coworker? How do you deal with your teammate? How do you create that environment where all of you, regardless of how your boss behaves, feel psychologically safe with one another? That you start there, okay? Focusing on what you can control. Number two, maybe exercise curiosity and compassion. And this also came from Amy Edmondson. And sabi niya, maybe find out, why is the boss behaving like that? Maybe the environment of the boss is also not psychologically safe. Diba? If you're not there in the boardroom, baka siya naman yung hinahabol ng ibang directors. And that's why nadadala niya sa team niya. And maybe have that conversation, boss, we are on your side. We are on the same team. Have that sense of compassion. We will make this project successful, but we feel we can be more honest, we can be more transparent, have some form of compassion. Yun yung sabi ni Amy and Bonsa. And I was reflecting it, tama, no? Ginawa ko rin siya, no? And at times, um, yung mga team members ko, sinasabihan din ako, Mark, ang sungit mo. Okay? We're on the same team. Okay? We will work on this, but maybe the tone of your voice, Mark, can still be improved. Okay? It's not creating a psychologically safe environment for us. And then nagigising ako. Okay? As your speaker, I don't profess to have all the answers, and I'm not really the role model of this. I'm also learning, and that's, I'm being vulnerable to you as your speaker. We're all learning, in this area. And at times we really need to rely on our team members to wake us up and tell us, hey, at this moment, you're not being a good leader to us.
Thank you, Mark. Shout out to Mark Joseph Ebe. Thank you, Sir Mark. Very appreciated po. Learning a lot from yours, watching from Zambales. We have Rhea Ridual Calix, who's watching from La Union. Thank you for such wonderful discussion. Timothy Ezequiel Castillo, thank you very much. Patricia Roque, thank you very much. Rest day while learning, watching from Valenzuela City. I'll give the floor to our HR Cafe mentors. Let's start with Mentor Jamie Iris. Mentor Jamie, as a learning and development practitioner also, what are your questions to Dr. Mark Relova about the topic of psychological team safety?
Thank you, Coach Dar. Definitely the topic, Doc Mark, I really am quite happy and very interested. And my question is actually, based from your experience as a leader and leading leaders, as well as facilitating team buildings for different companies, what are the top 2 or 3 Filipino toxic culture that you observe that are negatively affecting either the leader or the management or employee behavior that actually hinders or stop either starting, cultivating, promoting TPS? And we should stop this, we should avoid this, or change and improve this.
Toxic culture, Dr. Markelova. Who can you say about it?
Sige, very specific to the Filipino culture. Minsan kasi yung strength of a culture can also be a source of weakness, or it can also be the source of a problematic area. Very strong sa atin yung una, yung pakikisama. And you experience this, for example, in your communities, in your friendships, in your work environment. And sometimes pakikisama in itself is a very good cultural trait. However, when abused, okay, it can become toxic. For example, meron kang co-workers and matagal na tayong magkasama and nagkamali ka, instead of me correcting you, sometimes I will help you hide those mistakes or those wrong behaviors because nakikisama ako sa iyo. Number 2, pakikisama. Minsan si boss, mali na yung ginagawa niya. Dahil nakikisama ka, ayaw mo pang i-correct si boss. Okay? So, pakikisama in itself is good, but when it now draws into that lack of accountability, holding other people accountability, regardless of their position, regardless of their role in the organization, it can become toxic. Number 2, utang na loob. Okay, debt of gratitude. It's very true to the Filipinos, and it's also a very good cultural trait, and we can talk hours and hours on the great value of utang na loob. However, too much utang na loob can also become toxic. Okay, because it makes people subjective in their decisions. It doesn't make you really objective in your decision making. So all of these, to answer the question, the key, I think, okay, is to always step back, okay, and ask yourself, am I doing the extreme of this value, and this is already impacting the culture in this organization or group?
Thank you, Dr. Markelova. I'll give the floor to Mentor Jakeson Pichon. Any questions from you, Jake?
Hi, Doc. Thank you for a very insightful topic. And I know a lot of our audience from Philippine HR Group are also listening attentively and intentionally kasi nararanasan ng lahat ito, no? Or even ng bawat isa, whether leaders or employers or the line managers. And I think just to bank on to the message that you mentioned about the Filipino, talagang kung titignan natin, kung babalikan natin yung history rin, bakit hindi nagtatanong yung mga Pinoy is because we are being blocked by, for example, nanay, no? Pag nagtatanong, makulit ka, wala akong time sa'yo. So same thing happened to us. When people share their ideas, for example, walang time yung mga managers na himay-himayin kung ano man yung mga problema na yan or ano man yung sinishare ng ating mga employees, same as to the leaders. At dahil because of that, then they are being blocked by the ideas, and when they feel that, no, it became like a repetitive sa kanila na nangyayari. So definitely they won't progress with that. So you mentioned about the psychological safety, and this is really a perception of safety and comfort where we feel within the group of organization yung ating interpersonal risk nandyan, yung express ng ideas or even the voice of concerns or just simple asking questions without fear na meron. All right. Now, my question personally is, how are we going to embrace diversity of thoughts? Now, given that we have a lot of employees, let's say from, let's say we're looking at the, I don't know, the Gen Z, the millennials, there's some gaps between that, and then there's some contemporary and traditionals, like we're looking at the family business. Now we've been into the standards for many years and decades. Now being silent at work rather than being looking at the constructive criticism, parang wala na kami dyan. No? We're having this standard. So, yes. So, with that question, how do we embrace diversity of thoughts?
Thank you for that question. So maybe I can start with this. Team psychological safety lives in teams, not in organizations. It's a it's an eye-opening thought. You can have one organization and you have multiple teams in that organization, and some teams are not psychologically safe and some teams are. And it's okay because you focus on these teams that are psychologically safe and then extract what are they doing right that the other teams are not doing, okay, and that you replicate. So I'll start with that question answer before talking about the diversity of ideas. um, Start small, okay? Don't aim for the company to become psychologically safe. Aim for little groups kasi yung team psychological safety, as I mentioned, is a shared belief, and for say 5 people to have a shared belief on all 7, mahirap siya. It takes time to develop a shared opinion on all those 7 factors. The next one is, how now do you deal or create a culture where you're able to harness diversity of ideas? I'll go back to that concept of diversity and inclusion. Just because you have diversity doesn't mean you have inclusion. Okay. Diversity is a more objective approach. For example, diversity of talent. So you have recruitment practices that make sure that you bring in talent of different nationalities, of different profiles. But when they go to the organization, do they automatically feel that they're included? They're not. They won't feel that way. Diba? You just brought them to the organization. The same is true for ideas. For you to have a diversity of ideas, you have to ask yourself, what are the mechanisms that I have in the organization to allow people to submit ideas? Okay, it's an objective question because it's a process question, just like hiring procedures on diversity. But more than just collecting these ideas, the question now is inclusion. How do you make sure that you value, okay, or you let people feel that their ideas are being heard? And that's separate from diversity. And you can have many practices. So, for example, just showing to those who have submitted their ideas that their ideas were included is step one already. Step two, explaining why certain ideas will not be accommodated for the purposes of meeting certain performance objectives or targets of the company. Having that transparent conversation is already an inclusive practice. So that's my answer to that question without taking so much time. Have a more objective approach in diversity to gather as many ideas as you can, but also have a more personal approach for inclusion for people to feel that their ideas are not just being collected, they're actually being heard.
Thank you for that, Mark. Before I go to Mentor Alan, and just last few greetings from the people. Emma Empleo, watching from Cebu. Marian, Borja Dizon. This is such a good topic. Thank you. A Facebook user made a comment. Very challenging topic in creating a safe culture within the company to openly share thoughts without worrying any backlash. Thank you for the speaker with the topic and allowing HRs and management to check the culture with their company. Another Facebook user said, pakikisama ay utang na loob could lead to cases of collision that can result to the breakup of teams. Mark, last question will be coming from Mentor Alan, and after that, we will give you the floor for you to invite our audience to your upcoming certification class, upcoming trainings and programs, and also your last final words. But Alan, let's go with you first.
Alright, nag-strike sa akin ng gusto yung example niya kanina sa Pixar. Yung particularly yung Toy Story, no? I like that song, yung You've got a friend in me. Nalala niyo yun? You've got a friend in me. You've got your troubles. Not them. I've got them too. You stick together and you can see it through. Cause you've got a friend in me. Ito yung mga typical culture ng isang team na it's really, really safe to be open to your friends, to be open to the members, kasi you can feel that you've got a friend that people can feel psychologically safe because everybody's a friend at the same time while playing their roles as team members, as workers, di ba? However, there is so many teams right now na dysfunctional. Okay? And yet we have these programs in HR that parang annually we are encouraging our HR to organize team building activities. Ayan, may budget yan. What can you say about the trends now? Ito yung nananaig na trend ngayon sa team building because you're also designing team building programs like Darwin, myself, and Jake and Ma'am Jamie, no? What is your comment about the trend now in team building na kung saan it has become a team event na lang? Yung bang one day send off, let's go to the beach, let's have fun. Tapos pag nagkadayaan, hindi maganda yung naging rules, pagbalik sa opisina, magkakagalit. So, nasaan na yung resolution sa mga team dysfunctions? Nasaan na yung camaraderie na defeat? So, ano kaya pwede natin gawin dito? Kasi I've been espousing the idea of changing HR's paradigm of team building. Ngayon yung team encounter, mas malalim. Dapat ina-address nito yung mga existing team dysfunction and therefore they should conduct a team survey first, team climate survey or whatever, in order to identify what are the gaps, team gaps. Basically yung team psychological safety, no? Ang tinutumbok ng mga ganitong surveys. However, shortcut method. Karamihan sa kanila gusto na lang nila team event. Let's have fun, let's enjoy. Total tuloy si owner, si CEO na nag-alat ng budget, pag tinanong sila, "Oh, how's the team building?" "We had fun, sir." "Oh, what's the learning?" "We had fun, sir." Di ba? What's your take on that?
Siguro makakabuti as HR practitioners when we talk to our CEOs and business directors that we separate the concept of engagement and development. Yung mga team building, no? Bad rap na nga yung salitang team building. Where we go out to an off-site location and then we have fun together. I really feel that's needed. Okay? You need to connect from heart to heart, person to person, without your corporate attire, without your position title, and without the boardroom behind, around you, yung to just go to create memories. But I feel those are engagement events. Okay, it's not a magical pill that will solve all your team issues away. Separate. Okay. Number two, I like the word encounter, Alan, na binanggit mo kanina. What we need these days, and I'm seeing that as a trend. I've also talked to a lot of consulting companies where when they design a team building event, it's more a team encounter event
Exactly.
where we spend time without our laptops, without the boardroom, without the hallways of the offices to talk about real issues. Okay? A lot of consulting companies start to do that. But I think and I believe some of these well intentioned practices, well intentioned designs, do not succeed because once the teams go back to the office, the whirlwind takes over and BAUs take over. They forget. Okay, so the intention is there, the heart to improve themselves is there, but you have to put structures in place for people to carry on. Because as a consultant, you will only be them in that 1 day, 2 day offsite event, after which you have to pass it on to select managers, the CEO. So preparing is important not just to make the 2 day event successful, but more importantly, a lot of time should be spent on preparing what will happen after. That's a common mistake. If you start to design a 1 day, 2 day, fantastic team building event, but don't spend a lot of time carefully creating the architecture that will support what will happen after, in many cases, the intervention will fail.
Agree. Now, Mark, I know that you've spent so much time with nag-overtime na nga tayo, but I would like you to please have this opportunity to promote all of your programs, upcoming talks, and anything that you would like to share to the community on how they can reach out to you, how can they connect with you, how can they attend your training programs, and also, after that, maybe last words about your topic.
Thank you, Coach Darwin. Tulad ng sinabi ko kanina, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Yung Project Aristotle, sometimes it's nice to be able to watch a webinar like this, but in some situations, you gain so much more, you learn so much more when you learn with a group of people. Diba? We are offering and launching the Team Psychological Safety Practitioner Certification Program for the first time in the Philippines under the banner of Team as One. Prior to this certification program has been attended by about 180 graduates of in 11 countries, not including the Philippines. So we're bringing this program for the first time in the Philippines, and we hope to see some of you attend this program. What's in it for you? In this program, hihimayin natin. Kanina pinakita ko yung theory ni Amy Edmondson. But Amy Edmondson, as if you would like to delve deeper into this, was not the first to talk about psychological safety. Kahn in 1990 first presented the concept of psychological safety, but at the level of the individual. Paano na ba siya nag-evolve? And how is now that impacting the concept of teams? Number two, to make it concrete, meron tayong tinatawag na team psychological safety report. Before you do an intervention in a team, you have to do some form of diagnosis. So that report is compared with the database of 180 teams around the world, and you get to see kamusta kaya yung team namin compared to that database of 180 teams. Okay? You undergo that certification and then you do a post report to see if the TPS has improved. And then finally, we really teach you out of the 7 elements, how do you design interventions? Magandang naiintindihan mo yung theory, magandang naiintindihan mo yung concept, but the real test is how effective your interventions are. So these are the program details. The first class will happen in April, all Saturdays from 8:30 to 12 noon, all online by Zoom. And we're offering a discounted rate for the first certification class. And that already includes one free TPS report, which means you get to identify a team of your choice, okay, back at the workplace maybe, and then test what you're learning and do a pre-test and a post-test. If you are certified by ICF, many of us are coaches, and sometimes we would like to earn CCE points. Ano? This program has been certified by the International Coaching Federation for 28 CCE credits. Okay, and for our coaches, alam natin to, we need the points to maintain our annual certification as life coaches or executive coaches. I'll leave you with one case study. In that certification, we'll present many case studies para real and practical examples. This is a real case study we did for a financial services company composed of 90 members. And we did 1.5 day online team coaching session. And this lasted for several months. The problem was, how do they improve their working practices after the pandemic? Kasi disruptor talaga yung pandemic. So how do they go back to having effective team practices? And I just want to show you the assessment that we did, one in October 2020 and the other one in July 2021. You see all the elements visually, even if you don't read them, it's moving from the left side of the screen, the red part, going to the green part, meaning there's an improvement in team psychological safety from the point of view of the participants. But let me put a disclaimer. Remember that we work on team psychological safety not to merely increase our TPS, but to increase our team performance. So after measuring the team psychological safety here, we went back to the team issues. Ano ba muna yung sinosolve nating team performance? And we were able to quantify that the team is now performing well on the metrics that they have selected. Again, I think that's one of the common problems of L&D practitioners, no HR practitioners. We're so in love with our programs, but from the point of view of the CEO or of the business director, it's all fluff. Diba? It's all nice to talk about, but what's the impact to the team performance? What's the impact to the KPI? That's the starting point of team psychological safety. It's not about TPS. It's about what areas of performance do we want to improve. And these are just some of the feedback that we have gotten from that case study, where the CEO and the team members were all very proud in terms of how their teams are now performing after going through the intervention. And so this is the intent to put together for the first time in the Philippines and eventually succeeding sessions thereafter, practitioners who understand deeply the concept of team psychological safety. Number two, are able to assess organizations on team psychological safety, but most importantly, have the skills, the tool sets to design interventions to impact the 7 elements of TPS. I'll be your program instructor, but the designer is from Peter, a very good friend who resides in Thailand, who published a book on Team Advantage. He is the program developer, Team as One, also director of Team Psychological Safety, being offered for the first time in the Philippines. Thank you, Coach Darwin. Thank you, mentors, for allowing me to talk about this upcoming program. You can reach out to us. Let me just go to the last slide. If you would like to, for me to talk about team psychological safety in your company, or if you'd like to participate in the upcoming program, this is our email. And please do reach out to us. And it's together, let's create psychologically safe workplaces. Maraming salamat po and happy Sunday sa ating lahat.
Thank you, Dr. Mark Lawrence Relova. Again, Mark, thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule after so many years of inviting you to be part of the HR Cafe. You said yes, and we learned a lot from you, and we hope this is not just the first and last time, but we look forward to have you more in our programs and even on our public training programs for the community. Maraming salamat.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Now let's just ask last few words coming from our mentors. Let's start with Jamie. Jamie, last few words about the topic, and also any programs or trainings or any announcement from your end.
Yes, I just simply want to say that indeed, in our groups or in our company, it's very important na hindi lang yung scratch on the surface yung ina-address natin. But yung katulad nga ng sinabi ni Doc Mark kanina, it's the underlying cause talaga, like yung mga performance issues. So great point then when it comes to like for us HR L&D practitioners that we should not be only joyful with our happy fun program, but so that we talk also and speak and evaluate like kung paano ang ating CEOs actually will be communicating, because that is when we actually really make an impact and talaga may change yung ating mga programs. And other than that, thank you so much, Doc Mark, for what you have shared. It definitely is insightful. And for everyone, upcoming sa March pa naman to, I'll definitely announce it even more. Like I will have upcoming public speaking courses sa mga mahihiyain dyan na HR practitioners na, alam mong may potential ka, but then again, it just so happened that communication barrier or yung challenges mo when it comes to speaking talagang nandyan. So looking forward that I could help you out, even employees as well. And then at the same time, I will be relaunching my podcast this coming March. So that's Empowering Talk and Career Tips by Jamie Iris. And I'll keep you updated. Available po siya sa Google podcast natin and Spotify. Ayan.
Thank
Thank you so
you,
much
Mentor
and see
Jamie.
you.
Mentor Jake, updates from you or any last few words and an announcement that you
All
might
right,
have?
thank you, Doc Mark, for guesting. I know as of now, marami pa rin nagtatanong and wanted to reach you out, but definitely will be now that this is a trend, no, and we put it into our awareness. So I would like also to invite everyone that let's take this as an advantage na uh, revisit din yung ating psychological safety sa bawat isa, sa organization, sa bahay, or even to ourselves. Now, two things on my side. I'd like to invite everyone to, as we are now looking at the CSR collaboration. So we are in a solar and power or clean water. So recently we did some collaborations to reach out the from Taytay, no, far-flung areas where we light up a few homes there with our solar homes. So if you are also part of your pipeline this year is to reach out community, so definitely please reach out to me for that. Pertaining to IQBETS, we are from International Training Consulting, where we provide quality HR, business excellence, and supply chain consulting. So IQBETS is a sole partner of the International Purchasing and Supply Chain Management from USA. Now that here in the Philippines, we're doing Cambodia, Laos, and Timor Leste. So we have an upcoming training for the Certified International Warehouse and Inventory this March 14 to 16. We do have some for supply international supply chain and international um, purchasing or procurement other than the HR. We also provide learning development. We do have international customer service professionals, certified quality directors, and certified business administrator. So you can reach out to us. Just comment dito sa ating live, then I can reach you out.
Thank you, Mentor Jake. And Mentor Alan, any answer from your end? And also, please, I'll have you close the show for today's episode of HR Cafe. Usapan trabaho, buhay iba pa.
All right. Ganun pa rin nakakantayin ko, You've Got a Friend in Me. Kasi yun talagang napakagandang message yung kantang yun. No? And I have a friend before who used to sing that to me. And very memorable. Kasi, alam nyo, dito sa ating pinakamamahal na PHRG, importante meron din tayong psychological safety. And recently, I issued another reminder to all that whenever you're engaging people to comment on your posts or you are commenting on other posts, ipanatilihin naman natin yung atmosphere of professionalism, camaraderie, and siguro psychological safety na tawag dito. Kasi may mga nakakalimot, nagiging bully, nagiging rude, nagiging argumentative to the point na nawawala yung psychological safety ng ating group, no. We discourage that kind of behavior, and very strict po kami diyan. And meron din kaming one strike rule na talagang pag hindi namin nagustuhan, mawawala ka na lang sa sirkulasyon, and we never explain. Kasi alam mo na to paulit-ulit na namin kayo nire-remind, we want to maintain a professional, safe, learning environment, and let's maintain that. That's the first one. Number two, hanapin po ninyo sa PHRG group, Facebook group. You can search that using the search tool. Yung pong aking article entitled Team Event Does Not Constitute Team Building. Kung gusto niyo maging meaningful ang inyong team building, unang-una, umattend kayo kay Dr. Dr. Mark, no? Relova, yung kanyang seminar. At the same time, always remember, dapat maging team encounter ang inyong event. Hindi lang basta-bastang event na nag-send off kayo, gumastos ang company, tapos pag-uwi, away-away pa rin. Dapat meron kayong team dysfunctions that you're trying to address, team issues that you want to resolve in the design of your team building. So, that means in selecting the right facilitators, hindi lang siya yung basta lang nagpasaya, marunong magpatawa, marunong magpahalakhak ng mga members. Dapat meron ding aral at the end of the day, addressing the real team issues that you have back in the office. And pangatlo, ito na yung announcement ko. Please attend. Nako, sayang to pag di nyo na-attendan. April 8, 10, and 12 of the same year, 1 to 4, that's AI for recruitment and selection. I'll be teaching how to harness the power of AI in your recruitment and selection. At doon yung makikita na yung mga tedious work, mga tedious repetitive tasks sa recruitment and selection ay kaya nyong i-reduce ng 10%. Kung dating 10 araw nyo ginagawa yung ibang trabaho dyan, isang araw na lang. Kung buong araw, baka wala pang isang oras tapos na. Attend that AI or artificial intelligence powered HR, particularly on recruitment and selection sa April 8, 10, and 12. That's 1 to 4 p.m. Webinar po ito, live webinar, kaya hindi kayo mahirapan sa pag-attend. Yun lang po, Sir Darwin.
Okay, again, maraming salamat po, Dr. Mark Lawrence Relova. And please, you can contact, maraming nagtatanong sa ating comment section kung saan po siya ma-i-invite. You can email him at support@edpoint-training.com. And again, Mark, thank you very much for being with us. And sa lahat po ng nanonood ngayong Sunday, isang blessed Sunday to all of you. Magkita-kita po tayo next week for another episode of HR Cafe, Usapang Buhay, Trabaho at Iba Pa. God bless everyone. Bye.
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 End stream.